Hey everyone, welcome to Bounding Live. My name is John Trent and I am joined by a wonderful cast of people. My co-hosts Jorge Arenas, Drew Taylor, Phil Pratt, and Donald Edmonds. Script Doctor will be joining us later. He's currently, I believe, still in the Midnight's Edge After Dark live stream. I guess they're going a little late today. But how is everyone going? How blah blah blah? What am I saying? How is everyone doing tonight?
Are you Australian now? How's everyone going, mate?
I'm staring at a bottled mead. Can't wait to drink it with you guys.
Nice.
I got my water here.
You got to upgrade, man. Put some rum or gin in there.
Water, man. That's all I need. But yeah, so there's been a lot of stuff happening, even though Hollywood is effectively shut down. I mean, we've been following some of the news with Disney. They furloughed 100,000 people this week, 70,000 of them at Walt Disney World in Florida alone. I'm hearing from my sources that Disney's publicity team has been furloughed, and that's the Walt Disney Studios publicity team. So they are furloughing people on the movie side and the television production side. But we're still getting news of Star Wars film. So I guess we kind of want to start there. I know we said we're going to do Adam Driver, but I kind of want to talk about the Star Wars show right away. So we got this new rumor from Variety. Not much details on it, just that it's going to be female-centric, and it's going to be showrun by Leslie. What's her name?
Headley. I don't know.
Headley. I think her name is Headley.
Forehead. It said forehead.
She's not related to Lena.
Yeah, her name is
my
Leslie.
bad. Yeah, I don't think she's related to Lou.
Headland. Leslie
Yeah.
Headland.
Yes, Headland.
Is her name. Headland. Yes.
No relation to Susie Liu, guys.
So it's supposed to be taking place in a different part of the Star Wars timeline than other projects. The other projects that we know of are Obi-Wan and Cassian Andor, which are all in the, I guess, film time, the main Star Wars timeline. That's the only real timeline that's out there. That's like kind of canon. There's like references to Old Republic and like the Clone Wars, but we've never really explored that. The only timeline we've really explored is what Disney calls the Skywalker saga, which is episodes 1 through 9 now, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And everything in between. So, am I wrong there? Is there something else that I'm missing that Disney has done that's outside of that time frame?
I don't think so.
I think everything lines up with somewhere in between the beginning and the end of the Skywalker saga.
Yeah, everything's contained in that for now. As far as live television.
The 6 movies that are in the Skywalker saga, that is.
Yeah, so that doesn't. That makes sense if they want to move somewhere else. But there was rumors about like potentially a Mara Jade show or her showing up. So this possibly could be it sometime in the distant future if they go that way. We know that they're doing the High Republic, I guess, which is so they are doing that High Republic thing, which is what was that? That's 100 years in the past or whatever, 300 years in the past.
Yeah,
something like that.
You got to be high to read it, Republic.
Yeah.
420 Republic.
No. Oh my gosh.
So what's interesting though is that, as can be expected, the showrunner has some very interesting ideas, and she expressed them. I'm not sure where she did this, but Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers tweeted it out. She was on a panel that Variety was covering, it looks like. With
of course, they love
a couple of other showrunners. Let's see.
I have my opinions of that panel, but no, be quiet. I don't want to get us banned.
I'll say it.
No, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. So let's just let's see if I can get this up here real quick. Hold on.
Okay, I'll come out and say that she blatantly hates men.
No, I was talking about the appearance of the panel itself.
Yeah.
Oh, of the people on the panel?
Yeah.
That too.
Oh, what is going on there?
Inception, you're killing me.
Inception!
That is not what we wanted to do.
Hey, it's better than other stuff that could have been there.
You're killing me, Smalls!
I don't know why I did that. Let me try again here.
While he's doing that, Don, why don't you kind of
Here it
elaborate
is.
a bit on that comment?
No. We're gonna get
Is
banned.
there something aesthetic about them that we
All
need
right.
to discuss?
Here it is.
Oh, gee.
So this is the panel. I don't know if there's any people. They might have another couch somewhere, but it looks like it's just these 2 women, 3 women.
About to collapse.
I don't know.
As far as I'll go. Thank you.
Hey, can we get equipment? Need another couch in here.
So I'm gonna see if this will work. I'm gonna unplug my headphones and I'll just play a little bit of the clip.
The stress on those legs.
So here we go.
Hit play, of course.
Say that, like, I think white women need to kind of step up their game, to be quite honest. Like, sorry, but I'm calling you bitches out. Like, you really do, because, like, you know, there's like I couldn't agree more with everything that these brilliant women are saying. But like, I'm also seeing the silent killer, which is a lot of white women at the top who are kind of reinforcing a lot of old ideas. I think a lot of it, you know, to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'll just speak from my own personal experience. It's just like, I wasn't sure how to be an ally. I wasn't sure what type. I got so caught up in like what kind of terminology I was supposed to be using and being politically correct. And so as I started to rise in television, I started to just get more blunt and just start saying, like, I would like a black writer. Because if I said diverse, you know, you get, well, white is diverse, which is something somebody said to me. And I was like, wow. I was like, it's not cool. But to really, you know, I reached out to my, you know, the women that I respect who are not white writers and directors, and I said, what should I say? What language should I use? You know, and I think it's worth it if you're in a position of hiring power or green lighting power to like reach out to people that are not like you and say, what can I do to be an ally? And how can I support writers of color and LGBTQ and disabled writers? Like, what can I do? And what kind of vocabulary should I be using? Because I think it's just easier. I just see it in the room. Like, I just see them kind of go, like, it's just easier. Like, the guy at the top's louder. It's harder to say, like, I think this should be a black writer. I think this should be an Asian American actor. I think it should be this type of, like, I would like to cast, and, you know, really, I find it a lot as well with, as a queer woman, like with gay characters, whether they be gay men or gay women, where I'm saying, like, that's not a gay person. Like, sorry, like, this is not a gay person. Like, we're not representing that in this storyline. Like you basically want me to cast someone that you find attractive, straight white man, and that you think of what you think a lesbian looks like, and that can be very frustrating as well. So I think if we can get some of these people, I'm rambling. I'm gonna stop talking. Let's say that.
All right. So thoughts on that?
Okay, I gotta say something real fast, guys. Her comment about disabled writers, I call BS on that. For one, has no one watched Star Wars or Star Trek over the last couple of years? Right? Can you guys hear me?
Can you elaborate? What do you?
Yeah, what did you mean?
What do you make? What is the point you're making?
Just how awful those films are. Those TV shows are. Obviously, Sony is mentally disabled writing them, right?
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
I heard a lot of the whale language. It was.
Where's that bell, Don?
One thing I found funny about that, though, honestly, is that, you know, she's like, these women need to step up. Yeah, they should have stepped up when Harvey Weinstein was attacking women, right?
Yeah, right.
Wouldn't have been nice if they would have stepped up when they were literally handing other young, impressionable women and children to predators. But instead, we had to step up for this fake representation. I find the moral equivalency a little off here.
Oh, it is. It's 100% off. I mean, my first reaction to that clip, watching that, is never have I ever felt so powerful in my life wanted to see a person get donkey punched. I mean, you know, it's absolutely positively 100% grandstanding. It's off. and you know, she's just spewing the typical SJW talking points, man. And we all know that that's a false social construct in the first place. It absolutely is.
It's script as well, right?
It's weird because I'm seeing the brainwashing going on. She's in that system. Her cogs are completely worked into the Hollywood system of we gotta do X, we gotta do Y, and we gotta do Z, and we gotta label them X, Y, and Z appropriately. And you know, it's just like she's given away the system there in that whole interview.
Don, here's the thing though.
Knew it.
With her, she's a little more dangerous because she's got some pretty harsh, almost militant rhetoric behind it, and it's like, you know, I mean, you want to greenlight this woman to work on a project when she's basically throwing that out there. That is not a good look publicly at all. You know, public perception. No wonder the Disney team is furloughed for their promotion. My goodness. I mean, I don't know how you can promote that.
She's just a few steps down the ladder. Imagine what Kathleen Kennedy is on any given moment, you know?
Dude, she's worse than Kennedy, in my opinion, as far as that goes. I mean, Kennedy's worse from the standpoint of, you know, sticking her fingers in every pie possible and pushing this junk. But, man, this lady is just flat out dangerous.
No, I'm sorry. I think Kennedy's worse because she actually caused damage.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
See the track record from her nonsense.
Well, yeah,
right?
she is. But this lady, man, she's pretty dangerous herself. I mean, just running around spewing that kind of like, I mean, that's borderline hateful rhetoric she's throwing out there.
No, my favorite thing was like, you know, what she thinks lesbians look like. You know, I can only imagine what her thoughts on that are, right? She's probably thinking like Roxana Gay or something.
Well, it ticks me off like, you know, she has to lump like, you know,
everyone's got to be grouped together, man. Don't you know that?
She has to lump Asians in there, like, again, like we're tokens. They don't talk about us like, you know, it just, she can't say a cast of actors. She has to like lump in Asian because, hey, look, I get 2 points for mentioning Asian.
You know what kills me though? Like when they hire, like especially for me as a Hispanic, you know, as they hire Hispanic actors, they're like all cholos, right? They're all Mexican, even though like most Hispanics were not Mexican. There's like
well, white people aren't diverse.
Well, yeah, like white people aren't diverse. There's no such thing as, you know, other, you know, subculture group. You know, African Americans aren't diverse. Hispanics aren't diverse. No one's diverse. Everyone's just categorized in a little spot. You know, you got the cholos, you got the smart, nerdy lady that's probably Asian, knows math very well, and that's their version of diversity. And I find that even more offensive than, you know, some of the really crappy movies that we've seen decades and decades ago when you actually saw bad casting.
I said the same thing about when recently I've been noticing with black actors in general. You have a lot of African American actors and actors from all over the world, but apparently if you have a African last name, you're getting a part somewhere, and it's like I just found that kind of weird. Like all the black actors that are getting nominated for awards have some kind of stem from Africa. It was like it's cool, but why just them? You know, it's just
why can't somebody, you know, a black actor born in the United States, why can't they get some love? You know, why can't somebody born in the middle of Cleveland in the projects get some love, or in Detroit? You know, but it's like you got to have this special credential.
You're just shouting out Cleveland, aren't you, Drew?
Well, of course, I got to represent it, you know. I mean, you know, the thing is Phil's got a good point with that.
I wanted to touch on what you were saying about how her rhetoric was dangerous, Drew. She opens up calling these white women executives that she's having an issue with. She calls them silent killers, indicating that there is some kind of like violence that they are committing by the people that they are hiring to write on projects, and they want to potentially cast in projects and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, that to me, that's insanity. Like any company in their right mind, if an employee goes out and says something like that in a major, sort of press, sort of engagement like that, mean, my goodness. The first thing I would do is be like, don't bother coming back to the office. Your pink slip's on the table. Goodbye. I mean, that's how does she? Well, I guess because in the climate we're in, she could say that, and that's acceptable.
Well, no,
I mean,
it's just
it's a pattern at Disney, I
she's
think.
equating violence with it, right, guys? I mean, you're literally committing violence by not doing what I want you to do. Isn't that a little hyperbolic there?
Oh yeah, it is. Absolutely.
Sure.
It's inflammatory, and she knows it. And the fact that Disney allows her to get away with that is absolutely unconscionable.
Well,
I think it's garbage.
And it devalues what violence really is, especially in an industry that, let's not flip the funk, guys, has issues with both sexual and normal violence within, cast, crew, and whatnot. So I find it quite laughable that she's complaining about all the executives hiring the wrong type of person for a show or a TV movie, right?
Yeah, well, Jorge, they pretty much this whole social construct and all this group SJW group think that's going around. They've devalued true victims and true violence and everything else along the way so much already that this type of nonsense is now looked up to and allowed.
It's like when Corey Feldman came out with what he said a few years ago, trying to expose Hollywood. You had these people who were calling everything humanly possible violence, and by the time something really, there's something real to shine a light on, it's like the boy cried wolf. No one's going to care. No one's going to pay attention, right? Because you completely valued what the meaning of the word you're using.
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, she's not only the idea of violence that's disturbing. Again, she's categorizing people like we're cattle. Right? You got your Asian cattle, you got your black cattle, and you got your Hispanic cattle. We're all cattle, guys. That's
yeah, thanks, PJ. I'm glad you acknowledged me. Power to the people, man.
That's how we get our tax breaks.
Welcome, Script Doctor. We are in the midst of discussing this new Star Wars series and
the showrunner's crazy thing from Variety. I see. Yeah,
Leslie Headland. Yes, that's what we're.
Yep, the former Harvey Weinstein personal assistant for 6 years until she managed to parlay that to get on writer's room for a show in 2012.
Well, the hypocrisy is even more staggering. Then we hadn't even dug into that yet.
Job was.
Well, it's not only that. Listen carefully to the words that she chooses. She's like, how can I be an ally and how can I get these people involved because you want this? And it's like, well, if she's saying that to the people above, it means that not everybody above her is on the same mindset as she is, which they may be either ingrained in their own habits or maybe some of them might still have that meritocracy approach to their stuff. And she's saying counter to that because she wants to hire a black person or an Asian person or someone from the alphabet community to work on her show, which, okay, I'll listen to your premise, but you better have a solid argument as to why I should be thinking of those people first, as opposed to the ones that would be the best to write for what I'm putting money towards. And I don't think she'd ever be able to come up with a cogent argument for that because I myself personally can't think of a cogent argument for that. It's like, I want the best writer. I don't care what their political background is. I don't care what their ethnicity is. If they're a good enough writer, they should be qualified and able to deliver any type of character the story requires of them.
I will say the only thing where I could think of that is where you literally have a comic book character who is described in a certain way, has been portrayed in a certain way, like Black Lightning. You want a guy who's going to look like Black Lightning, can fit that role, or if like Captain America. You want a guy who's going to look like Captain America, where they have that is already like built into their brand. That is part of the brand of the character. And I think we've seen that. I mean, that Fantastic Four movie was horrible all around with writing, but I just think I think fans had rejected it because it wasn't Michael. I mean, they casted Michael B. Jordan, and the relationship with the brother and sister was just kind of weird for fans, and so
it
you
was
saw
wonky
that.
because it was wonky, not just for the casting stories, but also like how they tried to execute it. Just didn't feel genuine to the first family of Marvel.
No.
And on top of that, characters like Black Panther, for instance, I believe were created as Rob over at Midnight Session by two Jewish guys in the 70s. Like, if I'm wrong, like please let me know. But I'm pretty sure a lot of the characters of other ethnicities were not always made by people of the same ethnicity.
Yeah.
And it wasn't out of like, I guess, any sort of quota or obligation. It was more like, hey, let's do a character like this and see where we can take it. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, well, we'll just move on and create another character and do another thing.
Right. And on the other hand, like, I mean, with the MCU, we know that they've done a lot of race changes and gender swaps. But I think one of the good ones, and I don't think anyone really has a complaint about it, is Idris Elba as Heimdall. I mean, he kills that role.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule. But, I mean, one thing that I think worked in Idris Elba's favor is, can you find an actor better than Idris Elba when you want to have him in your movie?
Exactly.
Right. That's what we're saying. He's probably the best. He was the best person for that role.
People like
it's kind of funny how that plays out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, when you find a good actor for a role, you can mess with with the race a little bit. You saw that with Shawshank Redemption and Red. In the book, he was an Irishman.
Yep.
Movie.
Oh, same with Sigourney Weaver for Alien. Like, Ripley was a man in that crew.
Yep.
And in the script originally, but
Will Smith, Men in Black, perfect example.
Oh God, yeah.
2 white guys in the comics.
2 white guys in the comics that didn't just go after aliens, but also for some form of supernatural beings. And then the movie just
original intention for the original intention for Bad Boys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, same thing with Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon. In fact, they make Richard Donner's reaction to that casting choice was like, oh, but he's black, but like because Shane Black didn't put any racial identifiers in the script, so Donner just thought, oh, like 2 white guys or what have you. And then in Lethal Weapon 2, they make that realization that Donner said as a joke between Pesci and Donnie Glover when they're trying to fake get him into South Africa for that thing, where the immigrant guy says, but your friend's black. And that was just like the inside joke, because Donner was like, oh yeah, sometimes I just think, flatly, but I have this casting director's like, no, the best actor for this role, have you thought about Danny Glover, because was a really good actor. He's the right age and he can do that type of stress. And Donner didn't realize that. He's like, yes, that's a perfect idea. They brought him in and they said, you're the one, you're the guy, you're our main character in this movie. And Mel Gibson had great chemistry with that. And I mean, we had a fun cop franchise, but that's just goes to the point where it's one thing to be blind to it, and also reject the options. But it's another thing to be like, you know what? Yeah, why not? If it's the best actor, best actor. If it's the best writer, best writer. I mean, that's just how it works. A good writer will be able to write a female or male character of any ethnicity, because the first thing they'll do is, if they don't know it, they'll research the hell out of it to be as authentic as possible, and they'll ask questions and they'll put in the effort. But
yeah, Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan, 2 white guys, created Bane.
Yeah, the guy from Santa Prisca, like a fictional character, but clearly of not of a white descent.
And the white guy who plays an Asian guy on Altered Carbon.
Oh yeah, there you go. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, I mean, that shows you the difference between good writers and not so good writers, and it's quite obvious we're lacking good writers right now because these studios are too busy trying to fill up a quota instead of finding talent.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not so much that they're lacking good writers. They're just, I mean, you see it here. This showrunner, she's looking at the wrong aspects to pull writers
totally
to her
focused on identity. Yeah, it's focused on what you look like and what's between your legs, rather than what's in your mind and what's in your what your talent level is.
Your talent or your portfolio or what you've written.
Yeah.
It's basically, and also you have a lot of resentment too. So if, say, someone like myself, a straight white male, submits a script to a contest and wins an award, a lot of people be resentful, be like, well, they won it because he's a straight white male, because that's the industry habit, as opposed to realizing that, there were thousands of others competing for that thing, and the best script won out. Perhaps maybe that's a reason for it, but no. And mostly in recent years, especially some of the other contests I've been keeping an eye on, because I always look for like new writing partners and stuff. Last year was the first one that wasn't dominated by female writers. And when I have read those scripts that were written by the winners, they were decent, pretty good, better than a lot of amateurs, but not great. And then you start reading like the competition they're up to, like, oh, wow, this is really good. And then you see the judges and you're like, oh, it's those people who are checking the boxes as opposed to validating the content. And yeah, it's you're kind of seeing the inverse to what the complaint was years prior. Very, very fascinating. Donald with the
Yeah.
lewd comments in the chat.
Yeah, I was looking at those too.
Yeah, I'm getting that as well.
Don's the real silent killer over here. But I feel like this is a habit we're seeing with Marvel, with Disney, with Lucasfilm. I mean, we've talked. I feel like it's a new person every week that we're talking about from Disney or Lucasfilm that's saying this kind of stuff. And it seems to me this is the culture that is now perpetuating in Hollywood, and maybe has been for, I would say, probably at least the past half decade or even more. Because like what we were talking about 2 weeks ago, we were talking about Dana Schwartz, Kathleen Kennedy. We're always talking about her. I just feel like there's always something going on at Disney or Lucasfilm where their staff, their employees, the people that are representing them are saying these types of comments. And
it's something weird, and they're using these like
Marvel comics for sure. The comics,
these prospective successes as platforms to sort of skewer what they want Hollywood to be like, as opposed to what it actually is. And it's right now, my opinion, it's kind of teetering. Like there are those in the studio system, especially those that have been there for a while, that are like, they recognize the woke stuff, but they don't buy it completely, but they're also not in a position of power where they can have any influence. And then there are those who are just being force-fed through their assistants and whatnot that this is what the market is, even though that's not the case, as we've seen evidently in the last couple of years. So they think that's what it is. And then you get writers like this woman here who has not been writing that long, got very lucky through her connections and did the best business savvy thing you can do, which is like roll that over into other jobs, which I don't actually have any issues with. But now she's going on and trying to say, like, how do I become an ally? Well, like, what does it matter? Like, you're already part of the community. Like, you should know what you want to do, and you should also know the value of normalization as opposed to, circus performer, like tokenizing and whatnot. But that's not the case here. And when they go out and do things like this, it kind of muddies the waters as to what the business was, what it actually is, and it's making things a lot difficult for people to sort of have faith in, especially on an investor level. Because look no further than Terminator: Dark Fate, Charlie's Angels,
Ghostbusters,
2016,
the upcoming one.
Yeah, like they all went in a direction that just was antithetical
Birds
to
of
making
Prey.
a good movie. Yeah, Birds of Prey, especially. I just forgot about that because it is a forgettable film.
Everyone did.
But like, like this is the one that's preaching that, and that's only 3 or 4 films out of the slew of movies that come out, every year. There's a lot of them. None of them are as big tentpoles as those 3 wish they could be potentially. But I think if you were to do a good aggregate, you'd probably see less woke stuff out of the majority of those films than what we see in the news media. But at the same time, it's more the money is going towards those woke type of concepts, so it definitely skewers the narrative a little bit. But because we've seen those 3 movies, for example, completely bomb financially, it shows that the market is not what that a minority that's pushing up above them is actually saying it is. So that's a good thing.
It's not just movies too. I mean, Netflix canceled all of those woke sci-fi shows, or not. The IDW adaptations that they had, like October Faction, and I think it was October Faction. And then I was looking at that Vagrant Queens on Sci-Fi.
Oh man,
that was terrible.
The show is like
I can tell you about that.
200,000 users or 200,000 viewership. It's like absolutely abysmal.
I know that where the production company office is,
and that's episode 3. People are just like
4 episodes have aired on Sci-Fi. It's a Friday night show, and I think it's being moved to another time slot to run out its course. But
going nowhere.
I was sent episodes of this show at the beginning of this week, late last week, because I'm working on a sci-fi comedy pilot, and a buddy says you have to look at this because it's just ripe for parody. So I checked it out. It's incredibly snarky, terrible science fiction show. It looks incredibly cheap. It's filmed. I'm pretty sure it's filmed in Canada. I know where the production office is. The production is like Blue Ice Africa or something, but it's located on DuPont Street in Toronto, which is like 45 minutes south of me. And they work on they did They did the Indian Detective that had Russell Peters and William Shatner, and that show was canceled before it was released. Like they do a bunch of weird, very like quote unquote progressive product. They have a lot of stuff, and it's really a crew of like six people at their office, and somehow they're able to parlay these deals miraculously, and get funding for stuff that nobody wants to watch. And Vagrant Queen is an example of it because it's by a writer who I don't think got any notoriety until after they had sexually transitioned, and they had a pretty good, I guess, representation to be able to parlay that into jobs. And everything, it's just a very derivative and lazy, very highly contemporary show. And it's also snarky because it's like, it'll open up the show, this is a station, it's in another galaxy, and then it follows up, not yours. And it does that every single time they go to a new location. It's like, another galaxy, not yours. And it's just like, what, are you trying to be funny or clanky? No, it's just stupid and pretentious and annoying. So it's really, and I'm very grateful that a show like this would be I guess canceled or not renewed, because there is money, that money should be going to something with a bit more to it, really.
I haven't watched it yet. But what it, I saw my first commercial for it today while I was watching Battlestar, because it's happened. My wife happened to be flipping
nice,
channels. I was painting. I was painting our bedroom, and she had flipped over. I guess she was just flipping channels. I didn't know people still did that, and it stopped on Battlestar. And I heard Adama's voice. I was like, "Hey, what was that?" I was like, "Don't touch it anymore." And she left it on. So I'm watching it in the background while I'm painting. And then the commercial comes up, like, "Oh, it's that Vagrant Queen thing." And I watched the commercial. It reminds me of what Killjoys turned into. Killjoy started out really good, and then it kind of devolved into what that last season was. And I
think it's also the same, a lot of the same crew and a lot of recycled props from Killjoys were in that.
Okay.
I think they also stole, there's another science fiction show, I can't remember what the hell its name was, but they had like laser rifles that looked like the Mass Effect relays from the video game, and Vagrant Queen borrowed those. And their theme song is basically a ripoff of Funky Town from 1980, but they changed the lyrics to just the word "hey," and they run it through a synthesizer. Wow. Like, that's all it is. It's just
so
"hey."
much creative power.
Oh, exactly, and that's the level of effort that this production puts into it. It's really bad.
So
it's
what got
really
snipped
bad.
faster then, Inhumans or this show?
Inhumans.
Really? Oh.
And Humans was a blip. This one at least was out for a couple of weeks, and I think its only survival is the fact that
it's on episode
we have
3,
this
I think, right now.
Yeah, like the only survival is the fact that people are stuck indoors, but even in that, like, not enough were bothering to watch it after that first episode premiered, so it had a pretty steady decline.
And you're right. They should have had a bump from their trapped audience, and not even a trapped audience would want to watch that show. So that kind of says a lot.
No,
yeah, it also has like a weird. It has a weird alien dog creature, which I swear I've seen in a couple other sci-fi quote unquote original shows before.
Found the Daggett.
It is kind of like a Daggett, but I think it's played by a dwarf in makeup. It's like dog bunny hybrid thing.
Oh my God.
I swear I've seen that before, like maybe a late '90s sci-fi show. Yeah, they're just
John Candy.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, a very much shorter thing. Yeah.
Wow, those numbers look great.
Oh yeah, it's down to 4. The third episode.
Yeah, 0.04.
Yeah.
So it's down to less 30, almost a 33% drop in 3 episodes. Yeah, it's going to get canceled.
Oh yeah, the main character's a Mary Sue
already.
It started with point 1, and it's now at a 0.04.
Oh God,
that's 60% drop from its original air.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
see, that takes
really
time.
bad.
That takes time.
Yeah, so bad. But yeah, I think that's a trend. So Netflix canceled V-Wars and October Faction. Those were the IDW produced series. They were done after, I think that's 1 season each for them. I think Lock and Key is getting a 2nd season, I believe. That doesn't surprise me. That for the most part, that show is decent. I think it ended on a poor note. That might be an understatement.
You're being kind.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I'm being very kind. The show was abysmal at the end. I was yelling at my TV about how absolutely stupid some of their decisions were. It's like, dude, the woman has the crown. Like, what are you doing? Why are you going back to the house to like get the keys or whatever? Like, what are you doing?
My girlfriend hated that last few episodes, and she was the one that
They were
was
horrible.
rooting for Birds of Prey and the A-Force moment in Avengers Endgame. So she's like general of generalness, and even she found those last episodes of Lock and Key just too much.
They were really bad. I left it really bad. I don't even know if I want to watch the second season because of that.
Yeah.
But the build up to the beginning of the beginning episodes were actually pretty decent. Had a good Stranger Things vibe with its own kind of mystery and exploration, and then just completely just freaking went downhill, like you said.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's interesting that Netflix is canceling that stuff. I think the most popular show on Netflix right now is this like reality show.
With all those hot people doing things to each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Is
not
that
going
the
to bother.
dating one? Love
Yeah,
at first sight one?
No, it's Too Hot to Handle or something like that.
Yeah, I'll pass.
I thought it
Yeah.
was Tiger King.
Tiger King's like number 3 now, I think.
Oh, okay.
It's falling down.
It had its moment, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't get into it. I tried to watch it, and it lost me after the second. I was like, I couldn't keep my attention. I
Oh
didn't.
man, you didn't like the Adventures of White Trash Folk?
It didn't interest me. I tried to watch it. It was just like, this is kind of boring.
It reminded me so much of the independent film industry. Like, they do that all the time to each other. Like, fake hire people to kill each other, steal stuff from each other, burn things down. I'm like, oh, they're not much different, he and I.
Phil in the chat, I think he's talking about Lock and Key. It got too stupid as soon as they had that guy that killed their dad in the house threatening their mom with a gun, and they didn't use the key that makes people do exactly what you say.
Yeah. They forgot about it. They forgot about that key.
Yeah, they just have all these keys and weapons, and they don't actually use them when they're right there. I mean, I guess the excuse is that they're idiot high schoolers. But
No, they had the smart kid there.
I just hate that trope. I mean, high schoolers aren't exactly like, I know there's a lot of dumb high schoolers. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, there's plenty of them. I know a lot of them.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much.
I went to high school with lots of them. I went to high school with a couple of girls that forgot I went to high school, like while I was attending with them.
but there are a lot of like smart, intelligent high schoolers too. And the way they were portraying these characters is like they weren't like absolute idiots, but then they would start acting like absolute idiots for the plot's sake.
Yeah, that's where you see the writer manipulating the characters as opposed to following characters in a story. It just takes everybody out.
Yeah. And you see that, this new Star Wars I'm already like a no-go with it, with the showrunner, and then they're already like the way they're already describing it as like female-centric. And I'm trying to think back, like when they were like marketing Underworld, they weren't marketing it as female-centric. They were marketing it as this badass warrior who's like stuck in the middle of like a 1,000-year blood feud between vampires and werewolves. And
it's Kate Beckinsale in a leather onesies. Like,
yeah, I'm like, shit, I want to watch that. Like,
I'm gonna watch that tonight.
They didn't market Alien as like a female-centric space sci-fi. It was like, no, she's like a freaking she's on the spaceship and she's fighting for her life.
Yeah, it's 10 Little Indians in space with aliens. And if you haven't seen the old movie 10 Little Indians, it's a great film. Despite the, I guess, non-politically correct title, but it's a good horror film in I think 1940s or 1950s. Definitely check that out.
But yeah, they can't, like, if you're gonna, I don't know, I just feel like if you're gonna run, like, at least give me something else besides like female-centric. Like, are we talking about, like, is it going to be with the Jedi? Are we seeing something with like more Mandalorian type stuff? Are we looking at conflict? What is the conflict that we're looking at? Are we looking at Sith versus Jedi? Are we looking at Jedi versus Mandalorian? Are we looking at maybe bringing in the Rakata or something like that? And we're dealing with like the Rakata Empire, like dealing with the Wills.
The Wills.
Yeah. I mean,
some metachlorian poison out there.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Like,
let's not get into this.
just give me something like that. That's like, where are we what are we talking about? Is this actual Star Wars? And what is it going to involve? And where are we going to be at? Like, is it going to be on a specific planet? Are we going to actually like stay grounded on a single planet?
Alternate
Or
reality,
is it going
right?
to be across like a solar system or something like that?
When
Is it in a
comes
High
to-
Republic or the Old Republic, or is it in the New Order or whatever? Like what's like they gave us nothing.
Well,
I
they
think
said alternate reality, right?
No, they said it was going to be in a time space different from the current Star
Well, it
Wars.
doesn't matter then.
Oh,
It's a different time period, yeah. So either it happened in the past or it's happening in the future.
We can do whatever we want then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, what I think is going on is you have a content versus analytics war, and I think because we have so much access to analytics and statistics and whatnot, people are putting that over what you're actually putting out, and that's what's hurting storytelling. It's not about what's happening on screen; it's about how many people they're trying to reach at any given time. So they're throwing all these buzzwords in there, trying to appeal to larger audiences, and not really focusing on what the product actually is. So
I think it's to the point where they don't really have a concept of what the product is aside from female-centric, and here's this woman who basically ripped off Groundhog Day and made a Netflix series about it with the Russian doll. Because that's all it is. She's just reliving the same day over and over again. I'm like, yeah, we saw that in Groundhog Day. It was way better. It was also more compassionate.
Yeah, I
think
tuned
there
out.
was
I tuned out after like day 2 or whatever.
I think there was a tweet that someone made, and I'm sorry if I don't quote them or whatever, but they said that it was like a meme of what Star Wars thinks women want, which is a bunch of female-centric and strong empowerment and stuff, and then what women actually want, right here.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, I've seen that meme. Phil Arconis is saying it has to be the past so they can establish that it was a woman that created the Force and trained the first Jedis and the Sith. I believe that's something that happened in Doctor Who
Jedi Karen.
recently. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
There's like
We're
5 billion doctors before the actual Doctor we saw in 1963.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if they do something like that. I wanted to get back to Phil's point about looking at analytics in the story. So I wanted some clarification on that. When you're saying that, you're thinking that when they're crafting the story, that's when they're thinking analytics first, and it's like the data that they're looking at is influencing their storytelling process. Because I mean, most of the stuff we're seeing here, I mean, we just pulled up Vagrant Queen. We can look at the data from Picard in Canada. I mean, all these shows are like massively losing viewership because they're just not interesting. Whereas, like, I mean, even in Altered Carbon, we had a really good first season, and then the second season, people were just like totally crapping on it. I haven't seen it.
I think it's more. I think they're just trying to play Moneyball at this point. I think they're like, there's a lot of women on social media. Let's try to snatch as many of them as possible. So if we get a good word of mouth before the movie even comes out, people will go out to see it, and they'll do all the marketing for us. And to be honest, I don't even think it's about the people writing it or have their hands or are confused, I should say. It's the marketing execs coming in and telling them what needs to be inserted into the film, and then from there, and that's what's I think that's what's causing the confusion in terms of what we're getting.
So it's seeing like the results from like Wonder Woman and like how there was like a ton of women that went to go see Wonder Woman, and then trying to recapture that audience through something like Birds of Prey, and that's how they're like.
There's like this works, so let's make it. But the thing is, they're thinking this is what worked, not understanding that's not what happened. They're thinking this is why they went to see this movie, not knowing they went to see the movie because it was well produced, it was well written, and it was well acted. It had nothing to do with Wonder Woman being a woman. We all know she's a woman. Her name's Wonder Woman. So
yeah, they're looking at superfluous attributes as opposed to the content itself. And to go a bit more on your Moneyball thing, they're trying to Moneyball it, but Moneyball was about the players, they didn't try to like gauge the audience. It wasn't compelling the audience, like finding strategies to bring more people to the stadium based on like who's up at bat first. It was all like, no, if we get these people that can get on base, we'll start batting in runs, and as a result of that, those that
you watch League of Their Own, how do they get people in the stands? What does she do? She does the
splits. Yep.
Yep. They wear their little shorts. They wear their skirts. Yeah.
Yep. And it's about the content that drives the audience to come and see it, not the statistics to bring them in. That's just how it works.
And then didn't we look at the statistics? It was mostly males going in to see Wonder Woman.
Yep,
No,
and mostly women going in to see Aquaman.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's
So-
what we
so-
found.
I think it was like
So-
56 men and 44 women for a Wonder Woman, and then the reverse for Aquaman.
Oh,
Wonder
yeah, 'cause
Woman
I
they-
had-
wonder why that happened.
Wonder Woman-
What the factor there is.
I do want to. Wonder Woman had high male audience in the beginning, but then the women audience kind of trickled in as the film progressed over its lifetime in theaters. So I
they
think
wanted to know
I
what's
still
going
think it
on.
eventually had it still had more men than women, but the percentages got closer the longer the film was in theaters.
So it had legs, you know. No,
Yeah, I mean
Just
Wonder
like
Woman was in
Gal
theaters
Gadot.
still when Wonder Woman was still in theaters when the Blu-ray was coming out.
But
It was
I
in
think-
theaters like all summer.
Oh,
Well,
so
Phil-
like Infinity War.
Yeah.
I think it was in theaters longer than Infinity War. I feel like.
Because I remember Infinity War being in there for that in the first Avengers movie that never went away. So
I mean, that first Avengers movie was like, that was the first of its kind.
I saw it
best.
twice. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I saw it twice.
Yeah.
In the theaters.
What were we gonna say, Jorge?
No, I was gonna say, Phil. Back to the whole statistics thing. I think a lot of it too, guys, is that there's an information overload that they're getting. They just don't know how to read it,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
I do, 9 to 5. That's a big part of my job is statistics, and it's really easy to see it in front of you, but not be able to interpret it, right? I get a lot of that all the time. What I do, you give people numbers, but if you don't break it down for them, you don't put the context around why they're seeing what they're seeing, you can get almost an unlimited interpretation of said stats. So they're seeing these stats, they think that we need to be doing this, we have to do alphabet people, we have to categorize people, and then you combine that with the fact that a lot of these people live in a microcosm, social media, Twitter, and they get reinforced with that BS. They think they're right? They think they're being hit from all sides, that this is the right path to go, regardless of the performance of these films in the box office or how poorly rated they are on TV. It becomes someone else's fault because their statistics are correct.
So I wanted to ask you about that, Script Doctor. Is with the success of the Joker? I know we've talked about this before. Have you heard that's really kind of shaken up Hollywood, and kind of maybe they're looking at something else because of the Joker? Looking at,
I haven't
Or
heard
they
any,
just seem
any
like
sort of
small
shakeups on
budgets.
that. I haven't heard any
Of course
shakeups on that, but I have heard like people are super proud of the Joker and the accomplishment for what it's done. Not just for the fact that it was able to make so much money without the China market, but the fact that it was a low budget, like kind of sleeper hit, so to speak. And I do know that there are some people, unfortunately not in any position of power, that want to do that, want to change the superhero movie to be more in that realm, low budget, good quality, intimate stories that can bring a really good return. So right now everything's kind of like very slow moving with the shutdown. But the last I heard in during the holiday months was that people were super thrilled with the Joker and that they want to do more like that. But Hollywood gets stupid that way, where they figure, oh, we have to make every movie like the Joker now. Like they just think like they're trying to sort of use the formula in the broadest terms to every potential franchise instead of trying to like really delve into why that worked and play around with the ideas why it might not be able to work with something else. And if it could work with another character, how can they make that still fresh, but also like the same but different, which is the common thing thrown around. How do you make it the same but different? And you can't just do the same Joker story with like Harvey Two-Face or Lex Luthor or Oswald Cobblepot. It's not going to work. You got to find something extra, like a +1 sort of thing, if you're talking about like Dungeons and Dragons stats, to make that low budget thing work. And I don't think there's enough people in the positions of power of Hollywood right now that have been given that argument to work before them. So it's going to be a while before we start seeing a twist in that direction.
So I think that's a good segue. We covered this a little bit. I wrote a story up on David Lynch, his opinions on the is that an ad? I guess that's an ad that I'm getting on the Hollywood Reporter. Wants me to read some manga or watch an anime, I guess.
That's not traditional manga.
That's not traditional anime either.
I don't know what that is. I don't know.
It starts with an H.
Close as neighbors. She came in through my. Oh my gosh.
we're gonna. So we talked about his.
This is
Dune.
around when I was a teenager. I would never have left my bedroom.
He actually had some thoughts on where the movie industry is going. Let me see if I can find it here.
I mean, it keeps on that part of the screen though. It's just good advertising.
I can't. Yeah,
I can't scroll down anymore on that.
I can't really do any. I guess I can move this here. Yeah, I can. Okay.
Okay.
All right. That's
So no one will be distracted anymore.
Hey, Tom
Right,
Hanks.
Yeah. So he was asked about. We did an article about his interest in Dune. He says he has zero interest. But then he was asked whether he would want to make a feature film or a TV series, and he immediately responded a TV series. And he said, right now, feature films in my book are in big trouble, except for the big blockbusters. The art house films, they don't stand a chance. They might go to a theater for a week, and if it's a Cineplex, they go to the smallest theater in the setup, and then they go to Blu-ray or on demand. The big screen experience right now is gone. Gone but not forgotten. And we've kind of talked about this a little bit too. I think he's right. And I mean, who's really missing going to the theater right now? I'm not.
Yep. Oh, Jorge's back. Yeah, he also, it's also kind of ironic because 15 years ago, or at least actually more accurately 20 years ago, it was more about the movie was the commercial for the video on demand or DVD sales because there was more money in that at that time. But now with the invention of streaming and whatnot, and the way the contracts are done, you kind of need that theater going experience to really rake in the numbers for more investment into the studio system.
Well, I also think that's why studios are investing in these streaming services. I mean, Disney just launched Disney Plus last year. HBO Max is coming in May. Netflix obviously has been around for a while. We're getting the Peacock service. CBS
has a horrible name, man.
CBS
it really is. And the fact that they're using Saved by the Bell as their like launching pad for that is
really
weird.
It actually looks pretty funny. I saw
it looks like they
trailer
Cobra Kai'd it, but I don't know. I'm got my reservations.
It's a remake.
It's a continuation, actually.
It's a sequel with I guess one of the characters is a loser teacher there now.
Slater's the gym teacher.
Okay,
he made a pretty funny joke about because let me see, Zach's son and Jesse's son are in the school. He made a pretty funny joke about going after Zach's wife and then banging his mother. I was like, whoa, that's hilarious.
So Zach missed the building.
So it's a very adult Saved by the Bell then.
Yeah. He's
like
kind of building it. Yeah. That's a good formula. I love Cobra Kai. So
and Dustin Diamond's not in it, right?
No, they're not. That's not going to happen.
Thank God.
He'll have a guest appearance. He's like he'll show up for.
No, I think he's poisoned right now.
If this gets 4 seasons and it's some kind of juggernaut, they can do whatever they want, maybe, but I don't think so.
No, he ain't gonna be in the first season, that's for sure.
No, he's gonna have a cameo. He's gonna show up on career day.
Oh no!
And what? Be a porn star? That failed.
I wasn't gonna say that. I was gonna leave that up to the audience. But yes, that's what
they made it a human sexuality teacher. That'd be amazing.
Oh God.
But yeah, we're CBS is obviously going to be relaunching some kind of streaming service too, where I guess they're going to be incorporating Showtime and all the other stuff they've got. Maybe the Pluto thing, right? Don't they do that Pluto app?
Investors in that?
I think they own Pluto. But yeah, so I found this really interesting. He thinks that the big screen experience is gone right now, and then he even like criticizes like I don't even know how to say this word. Canes.
It's cons.
Cons. Okay, I know it's in France, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cans.
He even criticizes how their experience has like the theater experience there isn't even as good as what it was back in 1990, I guess. He does say that he's not making a feature film is not out of the question. No, you never say no to anything really, but I really love a continuing story. In cable television, I say, is the new art house. You have total freedom. The sound isn't as good as a great theater. The picture isn't as big, but TVs are getting bigger and bigger and better and better. So there's hope. And then you have this chance for a continuing story. So it's the new art house, I say. And I think that's what audiences are interested in too. We're interested in continuing stories.
or at least tight miniseries.
Yeah, tight miniseries. Talking about tight miniseries, that's one thing I feel like Sci-Fi totally should have continued. I think it's still on Netflix, but it's called Ascendance. It's like a 5 or 6 episode sci-fi miniseries, and it's these people who believe that they're the last hope of humanity, and they've been on like a 60-year mission to find a habitable planet. And then I'm not going to really spoil anything, but
sounds a lot like Battlestar story, though.
Oh, it's very different. There's a couple of big twists, and so you find out, like you come to find out that not everything is as it seems. But yeah, I thought that was like a really cool premise, and then like after that, like we just didn't get anything else, and they canceled it. Had a really good cast. The costuming was really well done. But I don't know really where I'm going with that. It was failed opportunity, missed opportunity. But that's something that I think like that you're talking about. Miniseries are good too. I would even say they probably should have stopped what we were talking about, the keyhole, whatever. I'm already Lock and Key. They should have the
Keyhole.
There's keyholes. The keyholes in the back of your head and everything. Lock and Key. That probably could have just been a miniseries, and it would have been good. And they probably wouldn't have had to maybe butcher the ending to open up for the sequel. Yeah, Lil Po Boy knows what I'm talking about. Great twist at the end. Yeah, it was a really good twist. You didn't really see it coming. There were like 2 good twists, which I really liked, and then we just didn't. It just ended. So much that they could have continued with that. It would have been really good. But yeah, so I don't know. I thought Lynch's comments here were really interesting. I think he has his hand on the palm of like where the industry is going, for sure. I mean, he's not like kind of because I feel like
there's time for a long time.
Yeah, I feel like the studios are kind of being like, oh, we still want to support the theaters, but then but at the same time, their actions aren't really showing that. When they're like, we're putting all our stuff on streaming, so people don't have to go to theaters anymore, and we're putting all of these like movies, like Lady and the Tramp, that live action that might have been in theaters, we're putting it on our streaming service. And even things that they had planned to go to theaters. And I know there's like a lot of speculation that Artemis Fowl was moved to Disney Plus because it was going to bomb, which it probably would. I'm not going to, but they still moved it to the streaming service. And then the Trolls movie was launched obviously because of coronavirus, but yeah, I just feel like that's the way things are going right now.
Yeah, at the point right now, it's basically one big studio is dominating the theaters, and that's Disney. And Warner Brothers was able to at least take a little bite out of that last year with Joker, but sadly, that's kind of the case. And when you're looking at a pseudo monopoly over one industry, it's really hard to compete against that. So the only other option would be to get your movies out to streaming services. That way, you can at least make some money off the licensing, and at the same time possibly get an audience that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to compete with because all the advertising is going to one company's movies.
We're talking about that licensing. Despicable Me was like number 2 on Netflix this week, I think. And that movie's like, how old is that?
10 years old?
10 years
10
old.
or more? Yeah.
Crazy Cat Guy is saying that our live stream may be getting ghosted. He didn't receive a notification. I think that happens a lot.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, we're just kind of used to it. Thank you for joining us, though. We appreciate it. Hope you're having a good night.
Yeah.
All right, so we're about an hour in, and we haven't even talked about the headline on the video. Do you guys want to jump into Adam Driver?
Yeah.
What's going on with him?
Hold on, let me take off my shirt.
Yeah, this is news to me. I've been in research all day today, so I haven't seen it.
No force Skyping, Jorge. We're not doing that here.
Don't tell me what to do.
No Ben Swallowing?
Oh, force Skype with me, Jorge.
Keep your mouth shut. No,
All right.
I mean, you guys know about it, right? You've heard about Adam Driver's basically being attacked for comments he made like 2 years ago, guys.
I mean, it's comment. I don't even think it's the comments that he's made. It's that it's the fact that he enlisted in the Marine Corps
because
after 9/11.
That's wrong.
And
that's
how
he's doing?
Yeah, and explaining why he did it.
Why would he have to explain why he enlisted to? What the hell?
Oh yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Phil's reaction is like the most genuine reaction ever because that's what normal people think about. They're like,
yeah, because now, Phil, it's a crime in social circles to be a patriot.
Well, I mean, to be honest, a lot of people that were attacking him are these really creepy fans, right?
Oh yeah, a lot of them are Raylos, dude, and they're
they're
I don't know.
People.
I'm not sure. I know the Raylos have attacked him in the past. I'm not sure if this was the case.
No, this was K-pop stands, and this is something they do quite often. They'll kind of like attach somebody, and they kind of hit them, just for the lulz, right? They think it's funny. They to go after people, because that's just what they do. They're very sad, perverted basement dwellers, like most of us here. But unlike the rest of us, they don't have any sort of value.
Man of culture, I see.
Damn right.
So we kind of got to this story a little late. I think it broke over the weekend, maybe at least earlier this week. But the hashtag AdamDriverIsOverParty was trending. That's like a typical cancel culture hashtag. It's usually X person is over.
I'm surprised they didn't go with drive him out or driver him out.
That would have been great.
No, that would be intelligent. It's witty.
Yeah, they have zero witty too.
Yeah.
But
drive them back. You got to be catchy with these things.
Yeah, go on, Jorge.
I was gonna say what I found really cool is not cool, but what I found really funny is that they tried to steamroll the guy and ended up backfiring on them.
Oh, it backfired majorly. So since we were a little late on this one, it appeared a lot of like the probably more hateful tweets were deleted or kind of somewhere in the dustbin of the internet right now. But this website, Meow, MEAWW, did get a couple. So here's one, and you can see they're kind of like they join the hashtag and then they go after Adam Driver here, calling him an Islamophobic troll, and then just asking people to like watch their video of photos of Amy Adams, which is very odd. So it's like I don't need.
How do those correlate?
It's hard to tell if these people are like being serious. Like, is he just saying this just to say it to be hyperbolic, to try and get people to watch their video? But I mean, you saw a couple of these tweets with this hashtag, and then there was another one here. Oh, we got masks. That's an ad mask. That's better than the last ad, right?
I disagree.
Oh no. And then here's another guy. He's doing the same thing. He's got a Hayden Christensen video, and then this person is listen here. I'm not saying that he should still be held accountable now for what he did. Not at all.
What he did.
What did he do?
He joined the Marine Corps and served in the Marine Corps after 9/11. However, stop saying that he had a valid reason to do that shit. It was not valid whatsoever.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so utterly ridiculous. This is absolute nonsense.
About the stuff he experienced when he was on duty in the different areas of Iraq, whatever.
Okay, is there an article where he talks about that?
This is ridiculous. I'm from a military family. I didn't join myself, but my mother was in the Air Force. My father was in the Army. My stepfather was in the Navy. My cousins, I have two cousins are Marines. One of my best friends is in the Navy. I have uncles and cousins as well. I don't understand how he's being attacked for joining the armed services especially after 9/11. I don't understand that. I don't even understand how they can even legitimize a complaint against that. It doesn't make any sense. And be honest, I don't. At this point, when you have, because they're trolling right now. At that point, you guys you have to ignore them, because if you give them any fuel, they're going to keep going at them. Just ignore it, because you can't fight that. That's nonsense.
Right on.
So as Jorge was saying earlier, I mean, the hashtag was basically taken over by driver supporters and people who were defending him for his military service and saying that there's nothing wrong with what he was doing. This guy right here basically calls the people who are doing this K-pop trash, attempting to misconstrue another situation as a reason to spam fan cam videos on a hashtag.
That guy Pitmaster Broda makes some funny tweets.
Price of Reason, who we've had him here in the chat before. We featured some of his videos in our articles. He was defending Adam Driver, and he describes the people attacking him as a bunch of fart sniffers on Twitter.
Not wrong.
Kylo's PR manager was just calling these people out for absolutely not understanding anything about Adam Driver. Adam Driver made a movie exposing the use of torture of the CIA following 9/11. Go watch that instead of bitching on Twitter because you're bored. I mean, people were just, you just go through this, and Jorge can attest to this too, because he wrote this article and found all this stuff. So apparently being patriotic when you defend your country gets you canceled now. Sorry, Steve Rogers, you're an istophobe bigot. Just complete sarcasm there. But yeah, I mean, it goes on and on and on. Oh
God, that's a good one.
Yeah, so there's some pretty good memes. I mean, these people most of when you go and look at this hashtag now, it's people defending Driver and basically just calling out these people who are going after him as just complete lunatics and just craziness.
I mean, if you're gonna make fun of something or go after something Adam Driver did, go after his Farrah Fawcett hair. I mean, that's something to talk about. But his service, his Marines, as a Marine of all the armed service, he went to become a Marine.
Yeah,
and that in itself is impressive to me, because when my cousin became a Marine, he was kind of a hard ass for a long time, and I know what he told me when he went through.
Full well.
Yeah, my late father was a Marine.
I mean, more power to him, and I thank him for his service. I mean, anyone who's put that kind of sacrifice and for your country, people you don't even know. I mean, my hat's off to you. Anyone that doesn't understand that, then you're bored. Go home. Turn off your computer on your phone.
Things to try to cancel someone over, right? I find that it's really, really funny. Like, when I first, people were mentioning they first saw the hashtag, they thought he actually did something, right? Did he run over a pregnant lady or something like that? No, he just joined the Marine Corps. It shows how insane they are.
You joined the Marine Corps 20 years ago. I mean, really? That's what we're talking about?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is kind of an ongoing thing with Driver. Jorge found this Tumblr from 2017 called Phantoms Hate People of Color. And there was a bunch of people on there who were discussing Driver talking about why he enlisted in the U.S. Marines. And they were just kind of basically saying he did it for racist purposes.
Did it because terrorists that were funded by another country ran jets into two buildings. I mean, that's what happened. If you want to go deep into it and go and say he went after them because they're Muslim, what the hell?
We didn't know that at that time for sure.
Yeah.
And even in the interview, he made it very clear that wasn't the case. He wanted to defend his country.
We were at war with another country. Sorry, those people from another country were a different color than the majority of this country. What the hell are we talking about here?
No, it's absolutely ridiculous. You're right on point, Phil. Man, it's infuriating, and but this is kind of the world we live in now, where we see this stuff almost daily, and it's just crazy.
That's beyond crazy, right? Who would imagine 10 years ago that someone a group of people would try to attempt to cancel someone over the military service, right? This is how far the world has diverged now. I understand why there's a zombie apocalypse pending.
All right. I think we've done good job with Adam Driver here.
Yeah, it's pissing me off. Just change the subject.
Phil.
All right, before we
He
go
has
into
beautiful
the
hair. I
Ours
love
didn't
his
piss
hair.
you off?
I was
So
gonna say
before-
that.
before we get into the next topic, then that might also be a little contentious. Let's do something else.
Oh,
We're gonna
gosh.
watch something starting with an H. That's cultured.
Starting with an H. I'm blanking.
It's an inside joke that was created
Oh.
about 15 minutes ago.
Oh, well. I missed it. I feel like I missed it.
Your cookies then.
Oh, the neighbors? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I got it now. The ad. Yes. Okay.
Oh God.
All right. All right. Let's do some Star Trek.
All right, I needed
Oh.
an aneurysm today.
I don't know. Hopefully, this won't be as aggravating. It might be. Maybe this might be even. I don't think this will be as infuriating. So Jonathan Frakes. Let's see if I can get this on
There
here.
we go.
Jonathan Frakes did one of those like digital virtual convention things. GalaxyCon. He was on their Facebook live stream. And he was talking about a lot of different things. He talked about his time as Captain America, how he negotiated a pay increase from Stan Lee when he was Captain America. And he also talked quite a bit about Star Trek. He talked about his first convention.
Yeah, right after TV premiered.
Yeah, so he talks about his first convention and how original series audiences were skeptical, suspicious, generally not terribly interested, and completely unfamiliar with this new Star Trek, which had a bald English captain with a French name and an entirely new cast. And he said they wanted their Kirk, Spock, and Bones Star Trek, and then he had really no idea what he was getting into. And then he goes on to talk about this at the action figures, where I guess you could buy 10 and you get one free, and the one free was Riker.
Oh, that's messed up. He was bargain.
Yeah, he was the
bargain. He got the beard.
Yeah, he was the bargain. But he then goes on later in the interview, around the 22 and a half minute mark, he talks about, or he's asked about when Star Trek the original series fans began to embrace the Next Generation cast and show. And what's interesting is that he seemingly admits that the first season of Next Generation was trash. And he says that I don't think it was until the second or third year when the show got really good. And he says that's after. I'm not. Obviously, you guys are way bigger Star Trek fans than I am. You have way more knowledge on this.
Yeah, the original
so
cast doesn't have fond memories of the first two seasons, even though there are some episodes in those first two seasons that are fantastic.
Exactly.
But it was the majority of season 3 and 4 that were really good. 5, 6, and 7 kind of went off the rails a little bit, but was still somewhat good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 3 and 4 were the gems looking back at TMG, but definitely.
But I mean, a lot of the bad memories, as Script Doctor, brings up, has to do a lot with the backdoor stuff, stuff behind the scenes, right, guys? Not so much what was in front of the camera. There's a little bit of issues with Roddenberry. He had a lot of creative control still on the show until the third season when it kind of loosened up a bit. Gave the writers a little bit of hell because, he had this confines where he wanted conflict and, where they could and couldn't go. So it made the writer's job a little more difficult than they liked. But so I think that's where a lot of the animosity comes from with the actors of the show. But I completely agree. Don't get me wrong. There's some really cringy episodes. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I think
It also has something to do with it has a lot to do with the format because they were trying to keep it up. I don't think serialized is a good word, but they were trying to keep
very episodic.
Yeah, every episodic. They're trying to keep everything contained within that 45 to 50 minutes, and then so if somebody popped in, they can just pick up and go. Mostly also because they weren't they didn't have a home network, so they were still being bought season to season.
Yeah, they were sold into syndication at the start, and on top of that, the first two seasons, I mean, aesthetically wise and with concept aspects, were very much more in line with the original series approach to concept. It wasn't until the third season where they got a little bit away from that and they made it more internally about the characters on the ship, because in the first 2 seasons there's a lot more exploration. There's a lot more different cultures that they went to, and then after season 3 they pretty much stopped all that, and it was just all like the Enterprise is on diplomatic missions and ferrying crew and doing like scientific exploration and stuff like that for quasars and what have you. You're not meeting a whole lot of new species. Like the only species they introduced really were like the Borg, the Cardassians, and the Ferengi. That was it. That show really contributed to.
What season was that where those really insulting African aliens?
That was the first season.
Okay, there you go.
And that was a matriarchy society too. That was a matriarchal society.
Really
the women owned
episode.
the property, and the men took care of it.
Yeah.
And then they also had the other one where another matriarchy society where the women are like the stronger, taller, more powerful.
I remember that one. Yeah,
that's also first season.
And Riker comes in there like normal Riker and just like I'm gonna hit everything that's moving. That dude got around, didn't he? But
and that's without the beard.
That was without the beard. That was proto Riker. bearded Riker. He just anything that would even have to have a proper gender. Just like, hey, you're cute.
Hey, I don't care if you binary, whatever. I'm just gonna hit that. Oh, you're hologram. Let's see if I can.
Yeah, you fell in love with a hologram.
But yeah, without season 3 and 4, I don't think we get DS9.
Exactly. So, lay the foundation for a lot of that. Unfortunately, we got the Kardashians in there and their reality show, but it's fine. We can totally ignore that part. But I think in the interview, Jonathan Frakes gave, he's conflating 2 really different ideas, right? The idea of people's criticisms of current Trek, which is a departure from Roddenberry's humanist approach to Star Trek, to now more progressive SJW version of Star Trek, in the way they would approach a story, to his own experiences with a hostile audience or with an already pre-established fandom. They're not the same thing. It's not the same situation.
No.
And he's conflating the 2.
That's exactly it.
Right? I mean, we have plenty of really humanistic ideas in Star Trek since Kirk all the way up through even Captain Archer, right? I mean, that's been the hallmark of Trek. It was humanist, positive, forward-looking, not afraid to look within yourself, especially with DS9, looking within the Federation, the flaws within the Federation, but still looking forward. But instead, you don't have.
And they wouldn't pontificate they wouldn't pontificate an agenda. They'd pose it as a question, and in some cases, they'd give an answer, but the answer would be played down. I mean, who watches The Watchers? It's pretty much asking, like, is it right to impose a pseudo religion on people that discover a more advanced race? And Picard already gives an answer saying that's supernatural. It's wrong. It's unethical to do. And he's saying it's unethical to do in a sense to manipulate people. But the underlying tone is that it's also unethical to sort of have a superstitious religion govern a whole society because it can lead to fear mongering. And while I may not 100% agree with that assessment, that's kind of what was Star Trek kind of did subtly. But in Picard, they pretty much just kind of hammer you over with whatever the agenda they have. And they don't even give option for a debate. They kind of shut it down before it's even proposed.
Well, Picard and Destiny have fallen into these modern sci-fi trappings where, again, the first few, I liked Killjoys. The first few seasons, that last season was horrible and very confusing. But if you compare what Killjoys turned into, looking at Vagrant Queen, and a few of these other like sci-fi and like Picard and Discovery, they're leaning away from actually exploring a universe and new concepts and things that make people interested, and they're focusing in on people and not how they're not the people interacting with their universe, interacting with each other, how they're feeling politically and socially, and it's boring. Okay,
and asking questions, like sci-fi has always been a genre where they ask the questions and they kind of give it to you. They don't put anything in your face. They give you these questions. They present it to you. You see this in Twilight Zone, right? You see this in not only Star Trek, but Dune, the novel. You're asking these sort of really large questions about society. Starship Troopers, for example, the novel, not the movie, but the novel. Asks the questions about social responsibility in the franchise, how and if should they be interconnected. Star Trek used to do that, right? It used to ask these sort of questions while delivering it and packaging it in a way where it showed you the best of humanity, even at the worst, what humanity can be, something that we can look forward to. You don't see that anymore. Right now, it's just like especially with Discovery, as Phil mentioned. They ripped. I know we did a story a few months ago where they ripped off a line from Starship Troopers from the movie. With Flores was like, "Yum yum, eat 'em up," right? I think that was like the second season. That was so.
Was that in Discovery?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It was so cringeworthy. I was like, oh, I felt my skin crawl because there's no creativity in it, and
it wasn't in context either.
Wasn't in context, and if it even was to pay homage, they can't even pay homage the right way. They just kind of copy paste ideas from other franchises, and that's not sci-fi. Sci-fi delivers, and what kills me, sci-fi doesn't really require a large budget. I mean, again, the Twilight Zone, the Outer Limits, especially the OG versions of those shows,
yeah,
in a great way display that you don't need large budgets to deliver great product. Right?
There's also the Ray Bradbury Theater.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. So that's what a lot of it is, and then so back to Frank's. That's what's so unfortunate
Frakes.
about his. Yeah,
He's not a hot dog.
He's a hot dog to me. Whatever.
You kidding? His voice? That's a delicious voice.
That's David Xanatos, damn it.
There you go. There you go.
He does. Yeah, he talks about gargoyles later on in the interview too, I believe.
Oh, he still loves gargoyles, I think. Yeah.
Everyone that was involved with gargoyles loves gargoyles. I mean,
it's a great show.
Yeah.
I'm still watching it. I watched it 2 days ago.
But again, he's playing cover for New Trek. It's obvious he wants to direct more Star Trek, so he's not going to say anything bad about it. But the one thing that
he's got a role in Picard now too, right?
I think that's just a guest.
He'll be back. They're bringing him back. They'll bring him back.
Yeah, he came back at the end as like an admiral, didn't he?
Yeah, but he's going to be more on the director side of things. He's been doing that. He's been doing more directorial stuff over the last 20 years than in front of the camera.
Yeah, he likes the directing. It gives him more time because his wife Jeannie Francis is still acting pretty heavily. So if he's directing, he's at least doing something with his day that's not acting, because acting can be sometimes longer, especially on a TV show. For a director, you go in for one episode, then you can take some days off, then come back for another episode on another franchise. So it's a bit more open schedule for him.
That makes sense.
And there's also the other Riker. He's still in. Is he still in the Cardassian prison?
Oh, Thomas Riker? I think he's dead in continuity. I think they killed him in the comics.
But here's the thing about the comics: they have an opportunity to kind of destroy all that, because in the comics, LaForge is a captain, and now in Picard he's still a commander, I believe. He was
Don't tell me that.
Yeah.
Don't tell me. I haven't watched Picard. I don't. It's not about spoiling it. Don't tell me that LaForge is still a commander.
I believe he
no,
is.
LaForge is a captain. He built Spock's ship that's in the Star Trek 09, according to the Countdown comic.
Really? Okay. Wait.
Okay.
But I thought they said he was Planitia, whatever it's called, on Mars.
Utopia Planitia.
Yeah. I've been drinking already.
I think he's the. Last I checked, he was the commander of that station. So that's when he. Well, commander. It depends. A commander can still be a captain rank.
Yeah.
So.
I don't think they went into his rank too heavily on Picard. Sorry, I throughout the entire first season, there had to be a lot of mental lubrication I needed to get through it.
I still haven't bothered to sit down and watch the whole thing. I watched what was free, and I know I can go and do that trial membership. I just don't have the will to bother.
I
don't. They're gonna steal your money.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's free. Wait, what? They're gonna steal my
No,
money?
not really
it
free.
Requires a credit card. They require you to select a subscription.
Yeah.
No.
But if you end up watching it, Phil, just take your time, one episode at a time. You don't want to get a brain aneurysm, because that's how bad it is.
A friend of mine,
need lots of mental lubrication.
A friend of mine in Jamaica. Well, I'm actually, my family's Jamaican. He was in the States, and we were talking about Star Trek in general. He went back home right when Picard started, and he sent me a WhatsApp, and he's like, "Hey, you should watch Picard. It's not that bad." I was like, "All right, tell me how it is after the second episode." He never responded. And I've spoken to him 4 times since then. He's never brought it up. So that tells me as much as I need to know, because he's as much of a Trekkie as I am.
So it's like if you watched a Ring video after the 7 days, right? That's what happened to him after 7 days of watching, Picard. He kind of turned into that. But yeah, no, it's. I mean, it's not terrible. I mean, it's terrible. It's not the worst I've seen. I've seen better sci-fi. You guys remember Lex on Sci-Fi Channel in the early?
Yeah, I remember Lex.
I think Lex was better.
Lex is better. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got a very immature sexual undertone through it, but I think the season before its last was actually really, really good.
Yeah.
Listen,
And
I
that
love
goes-
that. I love that late '90s Canadian sci-fi. You know,
Oh, that was so
Andromeda, Farscape. Well, Farscape is Australian, but you know what I mean. So
Yeah, Lex is German Canadian, which is why they were able to get away with so much of the sexual stuff in it.
That was awesome. That was a great show. But back to Star Trek and depression. Yeah, that was terrible. Yeah, man, Captain Riker. Oh, Admiral Riker, whatever the heck you are. Oh God, number one. It sucks that he went that route, but it's not surprising because he's still working in those circles. So he's gonna, kind of stay the line.
got to toe the line. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just what it is.
I think he can toe the line, but he doesn't. He also doesn't need to. He also doesn't have to make these kind of comments either. So with Discovery, he says he's talking about Discovery. He says, "But my friends at Discovery, which I was privileged to be a part of and still am, there was a similar vibe when that show came out. People, they didn't want to find room in their hearts for another Star Trek, which there clearly is.
Not this one.
Well,
No.
that is such crap. I mean, it's not that we didn't have room in our hearts. You remember, John, years before Discovery even premiered, I was like a little kid. Discovery's coming. I was excited about the show, right? I was like, oh right,
Lots
we're going
were.
back to TV.
I remember all the articles circling. The only thing that I saw, only controversy I saw was when crap, I'm losing his name right now, but the Hannibal guy was booted off his own show.
Brian. Oh my God.
See, yeah, I just had a brain fart right now. I'm like,
Oh
who the
yeah,
heck-
Brian Fuller.
Yeah.
Brian,
Mhm.
yeah,
Is that what
Brian,
you're talking about? Yeah,
Brian Fuller. Yes, Brian Fuller was
Yeah,
booted off of his own show by
yeah.
Alex Kurtzman.
yeah.
That should have been our first sign, right? But
Well, I just find it interesting is because like he says that right after he said that he's talking about how Paramount like expanded the Star Trek with Voyager. He called it Deep Throat Nine. I don't know if that's him.
Frakes
Like,
has done that a couple of
Whoa.
times. He's legit calls it that as a joke.
yeah.
okay, is that
That's a
him just
joke.
like disparaging the show, or is he just making fun of the name?
He's just
He's
being
making
himself.
fun of the name because he loves the show.
Okay.
Better love the show because I'll say deep as a complete product, DS9 was better than TNG in my opinion.
Oh yes,
Yes, I agree with that.
More consistent.
150%.
Well, so this is what I just find it just doesn't even make sense. His own comment. So he talks about how like Paramount in its wisdom and greed produced Voyager, Deep Space Nine, and Enterprise, and went on and on and on. So and then he even says here that JJ kept it under wraps until he produced the movies, which were wonderfully received.
They were fine. They were entertaining.
Uh,
They were fine.
I think in general they were received.
the first one was
in
wonderfully
general,
received.
yeah.
The second one was not.
Yeah.
And the third one
No,
is
I
actually-
I didn't like the
was
third
better, but also like just bombed
one.
because like
I
people were
saw a
burned.
dirt bike. It killed me. I was like, why, how?
Oh yeah,
What?
the last act of Beyond is absolutely terrible. But the question it posed was the most sci-fi question: like, is Starfleet really about exploration or is it about assimilation? But the thing is, they don't even explore the thing because the script was rewritten like so many times. But yeah, I mean, I think it was better than Into Darkness, but it was still bad. Like,
So
God.
I just don't understand how you can say that like all the Star Trek fans were like wonderfully received the Abrams Star Trek, and then go on to say that like with Discovery they couldn't find room in their hearts
It was
for another
bad.
Star Trek. Well,
The first two episodes cemented the show for fans. I mean, the first two episodes of Discovery were cancerous to say the least, right? You had the terrible Klingons, the terrible dialogue, and the technology that made absolutely no sense. And
Walking
got
a
off the
delta
lens
in
flare.
space to be found from an orbit, like on a desert planet with heavy winds. Like, how the hell does that work?
I think I talked about this before. Before we were talking about Slight before we got on the air. But Star Trek, the way it is now, I think they lost their way a long time ago. If they wanted to make fans interested in the franchise again, they should have started this back in I think someone said 2009 would have been better. I say that because all the characters that we care about from that universe, from TNG, DS9, Voyager, today the actors are all in their 50s and 60s. Those characters are going to be either inactive, retired, or admirals. that doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me. It sounds like a lot of sitting and talking, nothing really happening. So for them to go out and do Picard now, but do Discovery before, it's set in the past. They didn't even do it right. I think they missed their window of opportunity in terms of re-engaging their fan base. So
Well,
Yeah, Discovery should have leaned into the aesthetic of the 60s show. That would have actually really knocked fans' socks off, because there's a way you can do that to make it still appealing. And that was the one thing that some of the friends that I had at some of the friends that I made when I was interning at Paramount would remark about that with Star Trek Enterprise. They said, yeah, we figured they should have leaned into the 1960s style for their launching ship, and then just kind of mixed in a little bit of the touchscreen stuff, because I mean, that's how it kind of feels like it's the same universe, but you also kind of have fun with it, because the reason Star Trek in the 60s was so colorful is because color TV became accessible to more people. So they wanted to really highlight a reason to watch this show. And then in the late 80s and early 90s, sci-fi dropped all their color and it all became gray, steel, cold, and flat stuff. So to bring in crazy colors again for your sci-fi series that started with the crazy color trend would have really kind of set it apart and made it more appealing to watch. And also, you have fun with it. Have fun with blue walls and red doors that do swish sounds, and like very slim and analog looking technology mixed with your more sophisticated computer programming. Like, play around with it. But instead, they just kept on doubling down more and more on the low light, dark atmosphere, dark attitude. Like even the picture that's being showcased here with Jonathan Frakes, it's a dark room with some red light. It's just plain. I mean, it just feels like all the other sci-fi we've seen in the 90s and early 2000s. It doesn't feel like it could stand out.
Like the early 2000s superhero movies, everything had to be dark and leather and
like the X-Men films. I mean, I love the stories, but the costumes are stupid. And even their joke about tight yellow spandex, I'm like, yes, I want to see tight yellow spandex. Commit, damn it.
Well, they couldn't move in those outfits either. So
no, they're also losing weight wearing them because they're sweating the pounds away. There's like it's completely non-breathable leather.
that was before that was pre-buff Hugh Jackman, so it didn't matter. Now X2, that it started to matter. You can't sweat wearing those muscles. Those muscles are precious. Damn it.
He got out of the suit in X2, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah. He's like, not wearing that again.
No, he had a tank top or wife beater on the entire movie. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, they got him in the thing again, right?
At the end, yeah.
The tank. All right, so
great
so this is also interesting. So Frakes went on to say, and one of the reasons that was not a factor in the launching of Picard. And one of the reasons that was not a factor in the launching of Picard is because the hardcore fans love Picard and were inclined to look forward to the show and look forward to having him and look forward to whatever the story because they knew him and they knew who he was.
Too bad the showrunners didn't.
Yeah. I mean, they way overestimated the goodwill built up over years.
And again, that's because they missed their window. That goodwill is kind of like, we got used to not having it, and then you gave us this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not only that, but it was very clear they wanted to inject some sort of message into it, right? I mean, look at Discovery and the way the Klingons were portrayed. They were just a metaphor for a certain candidate's supporters, right? Again, it was a separation of humanist values looking forward to modern day my politicking. My progressivism, even in the way they spoke on Picard, just sounded like something I'd hear walking past the college campus.
Yeah, very contemporary.
Well, yeah, like the thing that I equate it to is you look at something like, and Jorge, you know this well because you've seen First Contact. I've seen First Contact. Most of us have. There was that really poignant scene where Picard was standing there, Lily was holding the phaser on him, and he was explaining to her, that he wasn't a threat, that humanity had become more civilized, and he was explaining what the 24th century was like, and he described it eloquently to her, and
exactly.
And that was, I think, that was Star Trek as we knew it then. And then
We're
when
talking about the Whoopi Goldberg scene.
no, this was the
No.
first contact.
After she woke up in the
okay,
Jeffrey's
yeah.
tubes and
Yeah.
Okay.
And this and he had explained, why the 24th century had merit, how the human race had progressed and everything else. And the problem is they completely threw that out with Picard itself. And it doesn't make any sense because, it's fresh in our mind still that was our vision of the 24th century when we last left Star Trek, and to come to this, it's like
even more fresh now because you have streaming services, right? So Star Trek is one of the most popular shows on Netflix that people rewatch over and over again, whether it's TOS, TNG, Voyager, DS9, right, guys? I know we've all.
I think Voyager has more views on Netflix out of all of them, but that's just because
it's newer. It's fresh in everybody's
it's
mind.
kind of more, more recent. And also, I guess Jerry Ryan. People love
Jerry Ryan. Yeah, they keep her on the title card. So
those dimensions, but it's just people can, it wasn't like
I thought Sexiness didn't sell though. I'm not supposed to like that anymore.
I don't care what those zombies say.
Yeah,
but people
they have no pulse.
Episode of TNG, and then watch an episode of Picard and see that it's not the same character. And they might have the same name, but it sure as hell ain't the same universe.
No, yeah, exactly.
Right? So they put themselves in the corner where they need to explain what on earth happened. Where's this gap coming from?
But the beauty of Star Trek was, even in DS9 demonstrated it wonderfully that you could bring really harsh social issues and present them in such a way that you spoke to the audience in an intelligent manner, but ultimately, you presented the full picture of that particular social issue, and it was left to the audience to make up their mind, and they've lost that. It has now become preached to the audience, and
here's the thing, though. I mean, they're showing issues in a manner where it's not we can be better as humanity. It's you're a piece of crap if you don't think this way.
Yeah. It's very
you
preachy.
come from a dog's rear end. And you turn crusty and white after a few days. That's what you are if you don't agree with us.
Well, here's the thing about. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
How I see it is, I agree with you with both your points. But Drew, let me play a little devil's advocate in the point when you said we were talking about Picard describing to I forgot her name, Lily, how humanity had progressed, and then you also brought up DS9, which is perfectly goes into what I'm about to say. In that movie, he said that, but if you remember, he kind of disproved that a few scenes later in the holodeck when he gunned down the Borg with with the little Tommy gun.
Yeah,
and she called him on that. She's like, "You guys."
She called him out.
And in DS9, it was again a perfect example of humans had they claim to have progressed and Earth is a paradise and all this, but when things during the Dominion War, humans devolved as much as they needed to win.
Exactly.
I mean, desperation was their weakness. Desperation was fear.
And that goes back to writing talent, and it doesn't happen overnight. Even if Chris Claremont, a lot of SJWs, they go back to what Chris Claremont wrote, back 25 years ago, and say he was an SJW. It was like, no, he was a man. He had a certain political lean, but it didn't reflect in his writing. He tackled issues without putting it in your face. Like he tackled the AIDS issue, but you wouldn't know really. It was late what he did with the legacy virus, and we lost characters through that. But that was a political commentary on his behalf, on what he did anyway.
And that's what Star Trek did. The other part too, Star Trek did that wonderfully. But the thing is that they didn't always leave it up to the audience to make it a point. Like take an example, the Drumhead. They pretty much said it is terrible to have a witch hunt because it's not the witches that you're hunting. The people that are going after are really the problem. That's a point. But they did it in such a way where they sort of slowly ease you in onto the idea so you can understand the argument they're making. They don't pontificate it. They just set up a premise based on a question, and then they explore it out through various different sides. Not always two. Usually it's more. Like they had Worf, who was basically like his entire motivation for doing it was security of the ship. Picard was basically seeking the truth, and then Ambassador Satine was basically wanting to sort of relive the glory days and expose and get some meaning again. And she was doing it through very misguided means and selfish motivation. And those are your three angles that are coming onto it. But then through Picard's own Picard's own wisdom of being calm, collected, and listening and patient, and not through a knee-jerk reaction like what Satine was, he was able to expose her for what she really wanted, which is power. Like, that's what she wanted to do. She wanted power so that she could make something pure based on her own guidelines, not on the principles that were culminated from everyone within the society. And then you have that scene at the end where Worf is like, I believed her. This is why I believed her. And Picard gives you the point of the episode, which is that freedom comes with the price of vigilance. So you have to be vigilant, and like that's a point, and that's not left up to interpretation. That's like direct, like the responsible thing, and it harkens back to the history with regards to United States history of, like, liberty, life, liberty, and all that. That I think Benjamin Franklin wrote about. So that's what Star Trek was. Yes. Yeah. Sorry, my U.S. history is not as.
You're right.
Stinky
Franklin
Canadian.
and Jefferson both wrote about it.
But the thing is is like you guys mentioned, writing talent. Script Doctor and I both know there's never going to be as good a writing room as there was on Deep Space Nine. Because
I don't believe that. I think one day there will be, but like it's a gold standard.
It's not today.
Most of those talented people went on to, really successful projects like Battlestar,
Galactica, yeah,
And The Expanse.
and Expanse, yes, and it's one of those things where that was a perfect storm, Deep Space Nine, and Deep Space Nine was just a very deeply human show. That's why I think everybody enjoyed that particularly, because there's that classic. People have the debate between Janeway and Cisco. Who is better captain? I always side with Cisco.
Yeah.
Simply because if you look at that episode, I believe it was the one for the uniform, Phil.
I watched that yesterday.
Where he where he actually poisoned the atmosphere of that one Maquis colony to make a point, but also because he felt at the time that's what they needed to do to eliminate a threat to the security of Federation. And he held hard line to that standard, as you can see throughout what happened in the war.
At the same time with that, he did do it for the security of the Federation, but it was also a personal vendetta. And that's why Cisco had a duality to it, which he was such a wonderful character because he wasn't perfect. He was so imperfect. And you can see he's trying to exemplify what a Starfleet officer is supposed to be, but he's fighting with his humanity and his pride. And he admitted that in that episode. He admitted that it's personal and
his security officer betrayed him. So there's that. And on top of that, Cisco is the James T. Kirk of the 24th century. There's a lot of overlap between them. While William Shatner may have his pause acting for dramatic effect, Avery Brooks has his breath acting, where he takes this big breath and then speeds through like a monologue with passion and vigor. And you just see the parallels between the two. And then when they do the trials and tribulations, you see that, Cisco idolized Kirk as a captain, and it clearly has an influence on him. And you can just see the parallels there. And that's one of many reasons why I love him, but I also loved watching Avery Brooks.
That one scene is so powerful, where they've got all their eyes on him, and Eddington standing there in holographic form, and they're looking at him like they're in disbelief when he gives the order to launch the quantum torpedoes.
Worf just stares. He's like. He's bluffing, right?
The first time Worf doesn't want to fire a weapon.
Yeah, and Cisco very sternly says, "Mr. Worf, I said launch torpedoes," and everybody's just like, "Holy shit!" He's serious.
And then after that, remember he gave another order after he told him to shut off the projector, and they said go to the next planet. Everyone jumped on it like, "All right, we're not playing, we're doing this." And that's how much respect they had for him. It's like, all right. Maybe the first time was a bluff. He's like, no, he's dead serious.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man.
And he made a point, and he gave the Maquis enough time to evacuate the planet, and he did it diplomatically, but he's just like, the hammer's down now.
It's the pimp hand to Cisco, man. You don't mess with Cisco.
But isn't it
But
great?
the other part too, like why Cisco is better than Janeway, was the fact that the writers kept him consistent and they made him grow and they gave him real problems to tackle. Voyager had such the potential of a conflict with the crew that's half Maquis and half Federation, but they completely just abandoned that right away. And they basically gave Janeway softballs throughout the entire series, which made her an incredibly inconsistent character because they never had to challenge her. And whenever she was doing something that's upholding the Federation, it was kind of good. But every once in a while, she then to make godlike decisions about another species or about her crew, and you just play it off as if it's inconsequential. And you're like, how can you follow this character who's tyrannical in a sense on one day and completely not the other day? And it's just because I guess there's no unity in that writer's room for that show. I do know. One of my roommates, one of his teachers was a writer on Voyager who had to write that space elevator episode. And he said he hated writing it every second of the day because it was such a stupid idea, but he had to do it because it's his paycheck. And he told us little stories about like the writer's room was fun at some times, but really terrible at another because nobody knew what they were trying to do here. They were trying to like do the original series of Star Trek without the foundation of the original series of Star Trek.
Yeah, it was, and I've heard that it was really, really contentious, in there. So,
all right. So back to Frakes here.
Sorry, we derailed you, man.
It was Frakes related. I mean, he was involved in DS9,
I love that stuff.
And he was in Voyager 1 episode. There you go. So,
we just had a pause there, so we can get back to this here. So yeah, we got Script Doctor's review here of episode.
By the way, I'll send you a check for that. Thank you. And then Gary's,
Gary's is on here too. What's that?
To the end.
Well, hold on. I think this is interesting here too because in this big interview that Patrick Stewart did, he talks about that Picard was. He said Picard was saying the world of Next Generation doesn't exist anymore, and this is what he said. I think what we're trying to say is important. The world of Next Generation doesn't exist anymore. It's different. Nothing is really safe. Nothing is really secure, and so this kind of contradicts what Frakes was saying here about how with Picard, they needed it to be like what does he say here? A touch point because people were familiar with the character, but what they were already had planned that this wasn't going to be the same character. Like the world of Next Generation doesn't exist anymore. It's different. Nothing is really safe. Nothing is really secure.
Well, Picard's a touch point that regards that brand name. Everyone knows who Picard is, right? And I guess that's what they're.
I think that's what he was trying to get at. But what you guys have talked about this a little bit earlier is that they didn't give us that same character. He's not.
No,
he's
Picard.
Meek. He's super meek.
He's not meek. He's just a cuck. I mean, it's
Professor X Logan, right? That's all he is. It's
you'd think in his retirement years he'd be hopping around the galaxy with Vash or somebody, right?
Yeah, he's a doddering old man, and he just lets himself be bullied by women left and right.
Which is almost
his daughters. Yeah, see how that works. The lead man gets talked down to by the smaller women.
It's also the opposite of how someone like that actually in real life. Like those people don't sit on their laurels. They're very outspoken about their beliefs and opinions. They aren't meek. They aren't cowardly.
Well, let's be honest.
They're being bold.
Well, let's be honest about Patrick Stewart. For the longest time, he didn't like the character.
Yep.
I mean, that's not an unknown fact. He didn't like Picard. He thought not very highly of the character till very recently. I guess it coincided with the possibility and the reality of the check, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. And the ability to eviscerate the character, which is exactly what they allowed him to do. That character that they gave him from the Next Generation is unrecognizable from what we see in Picard today. It's almost like
Yeah.
it's a completely different universe.
Not only that, like think about Patrick Stewart only stuck with Star Trek because they offered him directing duties on the show. And on top of that, every episode that Patrick Stewart directs, you can see that Patrick Stewart is the stiffest wooden actor on that entire show. He doesn't move his arms. He doesn't change his posture in any way. He just stands perfectly prone, delivers his line. Then the other cast actually acts off of him as best they can, and then it cuts to another scene where Picard's not in it for the rest of the show, because that's just how much Patrick Stewart cares about the character. He's like, I'm not even going to care about my own performance at this point.
Well, not only that, this is an opportunity for him to opine about his own political beliefs. That's just been his thing for the last 10 years, easily since about 2010, where he's been very vocal about it, and this was just yet another platform.
Yeah, like the only political belief of his I respected was his anti-domestic abuse issues, and
animals.
he has a very true story about that, because his father was a veteran in the Second World War, I believe.
Yep.
PTSD,
and he had PTSD that resulted in him being physically abusive to himself and his mother. And it wasn't until later on which he understood why his father was like that, because he thought his father was just an asshole. But apparently, like as he grew up and learned more, he realized, he wasn't like that before at all. He was a very gentle person. But a war can change a person. If you can't have psychological help addressed after that, you're going to end up becoming the thing you hate. And that was the only thing about Patrick Stewart's causes that I actually respected. But everything else, he just doesn't understand his own ideology in any way to really articulate what he wants to do. And that's been very evident with Picard, because they postulate all these ideas, and it's like, okay, you're giving us the talking points, but where's the science fiction approach? Where's the nuance? Where's the understanding? Where's the value of it? And it's not there. So again, it's empty, it's hollow, it's disingenuous, and it shows.
Yeah, I'm gonna go cry now. No, but seriously,
Picard's gone.
Let me take another swig of this home moonshine. But really, it's sad, because Stewart, as you mentioned, when it comes to certain causes, he's amazing. His stuff with pit bulls, domestic violence, it's amazing, right? He's a great actor, a Shakespearean actor, very, very, very talented. But God, when he directs himself, it's like you mentioned, it's terrible. He just doesn't know where he should fit himself when he's in control. He's one of these types of people that he needs to work with others when he's an actor. He can't take the lead completely. He's not that actor director that can jump in front of the camera, then jump behind the camera, then jump in front of the camera again and keep the entire project going smoothly. He's proven that time and time again. And I think that, the showrunner, the brilliant writers on that show made that very obvious when they gave him as much freedom as they gave him with Picard. And that was basically their excuse to absolutely suck.
Pretty much, because Patrick Stewart has proved that he has no leadership skills, even though he played a leader for 7 seasons on a TV show. He picked up nothing from that character of how to be an actual leader. And Jonathan Frakes, oddly enough, is actually a pretty good leader and director, and able to direct himself as a better actor, at least get input so that he can dish out a performance for himself, because he directed the episode of Lol, and he was only in it for like a couple of scenes, but he at least acted in that. Like he ended up getting kissed by Lol, and then had a priceless reaction when Brent Spiner asked what's his intentions with his daughter. I mean, if it was Picard doing that, it'd just be a prone face, because Patrick Stewart wouldn't know how to do that scene without someone else telling him what he needs to do. And even though Shakespeare is very revered practice and revered writer, it's still the common man's play. And to a lot of actors that aren't Shakespearean but have delved in Shakespeare, they kind of look at it as like, it's great, but it's not highbrow, high level stuff, because Shakespeare is all about sex, drugs, and infidelity, and violence. And on top of that, the joke, if you put a million monkeys in a room with a million typewriters, after a year, they dish out works equivalent to Shakespeare. That's not something good. That's an insult to Shakespeare. That's the whole point. It's supposed to be an insult, not like how brilliant monkeys can be. So that's the one thing that a lot of people need to sort of understand when it comes to making Shakespeare comparisons, and especially also getting into the mindset of a Shakespearean trained actor, because they're going to they hold Shakespeare in highest regard, as opposed to understanding and recognizing what Shakespeare did and how it's important, and also growing beyond that to other writers of play and media.
That's beautiful, man. I'm taking that swig.
All right, so Frakes was finally asked about people who are unhappy with Picard and have expressed their unhappiness, and he responded, "But they'll watch it. They're watching to make sure they hate it."
I'm not gonna lie, that was a kick in the balls. Like, if he was standing in front of me and said that, I would have slapped the taste out of his mouth. Like, I was really offended by that.
I think people are watching it in hopes it was going to get better or pay
Yeah,
off.
I think that's why people were watching it.
Yeah, I was like, I was watching the first season Discovery, and I was like, okay, this has to be a bad hologram simulation. Q's gonna snap and be like, psych, something. That's what I was hoping for, guys. I wasn't watching to give them ratings because I thought, I wanted to have a love-hate relationship with it. I just was growing in my depression, hoping against hope that it would improve somehow.
Some
Like
of us
many
are
other
still
fans.
hoping that for Star Wars.
I also think it's the case of what we saw with Terminator, Birds of Prey, Charlie's Angels, and this upcoming Star Wars series. The marketing is telling us one thing and Patrick Stewart was going around marketing Picard as a political drama and idea, and it was going to be pushing his personal politics. And yeah, people are going to be like, I hope that's not what it's going to be. I hope he's not telling us the truth.
And it's so over out too, because you can put your personal political stuff in TV and entertainment, but God's sakes, man, know how to write, know how to put together a story that's coherent, that makes sense, right?
Yep.
Know how to use a little bit of subtlety so that way you can draw the audience into your conclusion instead of saying, here's the conclusion, I wrote it on Sharpie on a big old piece of paper so you can not be blind and read it. That's the difference.
Subtlety. That reminds me of the opposite of what they did with X-Men Red. There's nothing
Oh my
subtle
God.
about that.
Taylor's doing the new Suicide Squad now, and it looks like it's the exact same thing.
That's so sad because he's done good work in the past. I mean I liked some of the stuff he did with, I think it was either Green Lantern or Lobo. I read things with Lobo. It was hilarious. It was a great read. And then I was like, all right, he's going to be doing an X-Men book. And then it was,
They just ran out of steam for X-Men.
The only thing I've read from him that's decent is Injustice, but he was adapting a video game storyline. So he had to stay within the parameters where it wasn't like his own idea, I guess, or he didn't have as much leeway to make his own changes to it.
Subtlety.
I guess, yeah. But yeah, so I think that's so for me when I read this quote, people were watching it with skepticism to see if initially they're watching with skepticism to see, hey, is this going to be what is this the future of Star Trek, especially after Discovery and what we saw with Discovery and everything, and then that was confirmed that's what we were going to get, and then people were just watching it hoping that it would eventually get better, and from everything I've seen it got worse.
Yeah, it totally got worse. And that Frakes quote, I tweeted it in response to the article. It just confirms the quality of the show, because we're watching it to make sure that we hate it, because we didn't know we were going to hate it. We were hoping against all odds that it was going to be miraculously good for some reason, but our deepest fears were confirmed as the show progressed. And I mean, everybody warmed up to Star Trek The Next Generation, because the first thing they realized is it's not replacing the original series. Second thing they realized is it's not hurting anything about the original series. And then the third thing they realized is hey, if this show works, we could have more types of Star Trek, in which we did and get. But now what we're getting with this Kurtzman Trek series is it's a replacement of the original series. It's polluting the ideology and the humanist approach that Roddenberry had established along with DC Fontana and Gene L. Kuhn, Gene Kuhn. Gene L. Kuhn, yeah. And now with Picard, it's basically saying that man that you thought was heroic in the original series, well, he's not. He doesn't go out a hero. He doesn't maintain his heroic virtues or anything like that. He's a broken old man that's waiting to die, and then gets replaced with a synthetic clone that's not actually him. Yeah, how are you supposed to open your heart to that when that's the perspective that these writers are coming to with a franchise that has had last up until 2005?
And you know what gets me? Like I got into a little bit of a tidbit with an apologist for New Trek, and their philosophy is like, well, we need to support it, we need to watch it because when fans don't, we'll end up with the gap in Star Trek that we had between Star Trek Enterprise and J.J. Abrams' abortions.
Yeah, I missed that gap right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, and I said that exactly right. The gap is still going for one, and for two, you can't blame people for not watching Enterprise when it was on UPN. I didn't have UPN when I was living in Georgia at the time before I came to Texas. So that was not the fault of Trek fans. It was a fault of availability. Even Voyager, I remember Voyager had that issue when I was living in San Antonio, right? The San Antonio is not a small market for television, and Voyager was put on the 10:30 at night slot because they couldn't get a contract out properly with the local stations there. So, these people who are apologizing for trying to say, well, we need to watch this so we can get something better. That's an absolute horse crap.
But you have something better, though. It's on Netflix. You watched Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, actually, that's what happened here in Canada. When Voyager was launched, we had Space the Imagination Station, which is turned into like sci-fi channel, CTV sci-fi channel. But before then, it would be at 3 o'clock would be Star Trek, the original series. 4 o'clock would be The Next Generation. 5 o'clock would be Deep Space Nine. And then 6 o'clock would be Voyager. And they did that while Voyager was premiering. And after, I think, the first season, they pushed everything back another hour. So then Voyager would be at 7 o'clock. And then the year after that, they pushed it back again. So it'd be at 8 o'clock because people wanted to see TNG at 6, Deep Space Nine at 7, and TOS at 4. And that's how it went through. But by the time you have that 9 p.m. Competition, better shows are on primetime networks than Star Trek Voyager. So nobody was watching it. And that's just the nature of the game. UPN really screwed up, and so did Paramount CBS at that time with trying to market Voyager for people to actually watch.
I will say one thing:
when fan films are better than the current iteration of Star Trek. Before they decided to put that draconian limits on fan films, I watched a few of these on YouTube, and I was like, and I'm not even talking about like Prelude to X or anything like that. There were a couple of them that were really good. I'm like, damn, this is.
I found Star Trek continues to be the best of them. Absolutely loved it. And currently a couple of the new fan films that are coming out that are 15, 20 minutes or so, they're actually pretty good. And it's forced fans to think more economically on story-wise. Like they realize, we only have this much time, so only the stuff that's important should matter, which is what you should be doing for stories anyways.
It's almost as if you need to, you need some sort of discipline to put together a story instead of just letting people burn a house and see what happens.
Exactly. Yeah.
What were you going to say, Phil?
No, I just remember back in those UPN days, it was kind of a treat because I was getting new Voyager and new DS9. Voyager came on at 9 and DS9 came on at 10, and they were brand new episodes. I thought that was pretty cool at one point. That's how I got into DS9. I came into DS9 real late, and I didn't even see the entire series until it was available. I saw it in syndication on other channels, but never in order. I didn't see it in order until it came on Netflix several years ago, like every single episode. And then I've watched it back to back about 800 times. But I love I actually love that era. I'm sorry you guys had such a problem. I didn't know it was that big of a problem getting it on channels.
It was just that UPN wasn't available everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. And like Star Trek was syndicated. There's some of the other series were syndicated in different channels. Like I'd see Next Generation on the local Fox station. I'd see Voyager on the local, I think it was NBC station, and then I'd catch DS9 on the local CBS station. So it was really schizophrenic on the markets I was in. So if UPN was like that nationwide, right? If the availability was nationwide like that, Phil, I think it would have been a recipe for success for Trek.
Yeah.
Instead, they had no sense of order. I had the same experience you did with Voyager and with DS9. the episodes I were getting were out of order. One week it would be a season 1 episode, another week would be a season 3 episode.
Yeah,
and it's hard when you have some stories that are multiple episodes, and you're like, where am I? What the heck's going on here? Oh well, I guess I'm going to have to just take the ride and see what happens. And it just sucks because it puts the shows at a massive disadvantage compared to their competition, and then they completely take a shit on the fans when we have a hard time tracking the shows to watch it. Well, you weren't watching it, you weren't supporting the show, dude. Why don't you go eat a bag of dicks? Because I was doing my best to watch this show. Right? Like seriously, well, take that head out of your ass and learn how to market and syndicate your show properly instead of expecting the viewers to make up for your impotence.
Impotence
now.
Pure. Never mind.
Actually, impotence is the best word you can describe some of the writers with these franchises. They're creatively impotent. I mean, it's derivative stuff that's like they're afraid to perform, and when we call them out for not being hard, they blame it on all these other factors that have nothing to do with that. It's themselves.
Have you guys seen that YouTube channel Major Grin?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Holy crap!
No, I haven't seen that yet. I gotta check that out.
Script Doctor, you have to look up Major Grin because he does exactly that. He's like, here's a Picard, and this is what they're ripping off, side by side, right? And it is both amazing and just sad because it just shows how much New Trek is literally, instead of being creative, just copying pasting it and just making their own iterations and versions of what they feel is popular and what's been successful with other shows, but they're failing at it.
Yeah, I just subbed to his channel and put some stuff on my to watch list.
Yeah, you got to, because I think today's episode was like a Picard and Blade Runner, right? And these are like 1-2 minute little clips. But it shows you that, the writers are impotent in their inability to put together a coherent story without stealing tropes from other current sci-fi, dystopian, oh my God, she's so strong, she has a bow and arrow shows.
That's funny. You keep saying impotent. It keeps reminding me of Justice League Unlimited. It was a joke when that's how crazy Justice League was. It's a cartoon. They're using the word impotent as a joke, and they're using it in the way you're thinking. So,
dude, there've been plenty of cartoon shows like that. They hit some really adult themes in there. Like I was rewatching The Simpsons on Disney Plus. Thank you, Donald. Like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, my God, Homer and Marge like bang all the time. What in the living hell was I missing growing up?
Mr. Plow.
Yeah.
My parents did not allow me to watch this.
So much.
My parents encouraged me to watch it because there's a lot of episodes that sort of harken back to history and other literature works. So you're getting a little bit of an education to that.
Homer's like work office is like a nuclear submarine, isn't it?
Nuclear power plant.
Power plant.
Well, no, but it's from a nuclear submarine.
Oh, the station?
Yeah.
It's similar.
It's based off of it. Yeah.
He's the health and safety inspector of a power plant.
Of a nuclear power plant, and he doesn't do his job. He just like sleeps all day. It gives me nothing but confidence.
All right, let's switch. Let's get Don in here. He's been quiet for a little bit. We're gonna talk some.
Wake up, Donald.
See if this is. There we go.
I've been awake. I've been ringing the bell.
So we got some more Fantastic Four rumors. This one is about Joss Whedon, and it comes from everyone's favorite YouTuber, John Campea. So you want to take the lead on this one, Don?
Favorite YouTuber.
I was being
He has
sarcastic.
his days, man. I mean, most of the time. Goodness.
Okay, John Campea, for everybody that's been talking for the last hour or so, he loves Picard. He thinks it's representative of Star Trek.
So he has a brain tumor.
He has really bad opinions.
But he has Robert Meyer Burnett on the show as well.
Co-host does not agree.
They do not agree at all. But yeah, so he has a source that, well, I should just read it. Campea shared with his audience a bit of information he received a while ago from an unnamed source. He felt it was pertinent. He felt it wasn't pertinent at the time because he had no way of confirming it. I guess he wanted to come off the heels of the John Krasinski thing.
I just want to point out that Don is mocking his own writing.
Yeah, absolutely.
With that voice.
Have you seen my videos?
I saw today's video. It was great, by the way. Well, when you did last night.
Keep going, don't I? Sorry. I need to scroll.
So.
That was my fault.
All right. Campia states, I have not made this a story before because I don't even know how much I have that this is true. So let's just be really clear about that. But I have been told in the past few months, or 2 months, that conversations with Joss Whedon regarding the Fantastic Four have occurred.
Well, we forgot a in quotation mark there.
Oh, yeah. Well,
that's my fault.
Already better than Rich Johnston. So, again, I don't know if it was just conversations of, hey, let's talk about this. Do you have any ideas? Hey, what would your take on this be? Kind of casual. Or, Joss, we were really thinking about having you direct the Fantastic Four. Would you even be interested? He's been doing a lot of smaller stuff. I think he's got a new...
He's got an HBO. I think he's got an HBO show coming out. Some sci-fi supernatural show called The Others or something like that.
Oh, The Others, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it could be interesting. I mean, but it's HBO and it looks like it could be very woke.
Yeah, HBO's kind of.
But we'll
desperate
see.
Now that they lost the dragons. So yeah, that's Whedon. I don't know how I feel about Whedon in the back in the MCU, especially after Justice League.
So remember last year there were also rumors about him like maybe doing an X-Men movie. I know Phil believes now that the X-Men are probably going to be introduced piecemeal, and we won't get a X-Men movie for a while. I mean, even with coronavirus and everything. Feige had said it was like they were going with their 5-year plan now. So the idea was that we wouldn't see like a really X-Men team up film for another 5 years. But it does sound like they might be incorporating them here and there, and maybe some of the Disney Plus shows, maybe getting some cameos in like Captain Marvel 2, maybe, I think, and then in Black Panther 2 as well, possibly. There might be some stuff going on there.
The Gambit rumor for this TV show because they co-opted they co-opted all those they can't call them copyrights but placeholders for all those characters and locations.
Right. Yeah. So that might be happening. But I mean, with everything that's going on with Hollywood right now, production's being delayed. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but like I know so I was like in the Star Wars story we were covering earlier, like Disney was like furloughing everyone. They'd actually terminated contracts for their Little Mermaid production in the UK, but then they found out that they could put them on some kind of like UK government assistance program. So then they furloughed them instead. So they're getting the UK government is paying like 80% of what they were getting from Disney.
Yeah, basically Disney's able to maintain a production hold without any cost to themselves. So they're taking advantage of a local government program where they're shooting in. It's kind of despicable.
Wait, so they did that for woke Little Mermaid?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That was a Deadline reported that on like the beginning of this month. And then, yeah, so we know that that's happening. We know they've paused production on Falcon and Winter Soldier. I saw something that it looks like Hemsworth is like filming something in India, but I don't know if that's for Disney or not. So it looks like there is.
That might be that new action thing he's in.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. So it sounds like there's still production happening outside of U.S. and like the U.K. and Europe. But I know that it sounds like India might be going into some lockdowns too soon, though. So we'll see what happens there if that continues. But yeah, Whedon has been rumored to do X-Men stuff. I don't know. He wrote Astonishing X-Men back in 2004.
That's all right.
He's got a pretty lengthy track record with the MCU. He's pretty much like been involved in almost all of the Phase 1 films. I guess aside from Hulk, it seems like, because he was. I don't know if he did anything with your first Thor. But he did work on Thor: The Dark World. He worked on Captain America: First Avenger. I don't think he did anything with Iron Man.
No,
obviously he directed
only
Avengers.
I think he was an associate producer for Thor.
The first one?
And no, the second one. He didn't come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't
He
really.
was a
I think
script
he only
doctor,
helped out
sounded
with
like.
Yeah, he did script doctoring for I think Captain America
And Thor: The Dark World. It sounds like.
and Thor: The Dark World. Yeah, but he didn't really get like kind of his feet wet until he was told that he's going to be writing and directing Avengers, and then from there on out, he's kind of been sort of associated with Marvel ever since in some capacity.
Yeah. So Alan Taylor, who directed Thor: The Dark World, told SFX magazine, Josh came in to save our lives a couple of times. We had a major scene that was not working on the page at all in London, and he basically got airlifted in like a SWAT team or something. He came.
I wish I got that sometimes.
He came
they
down.
Always say, get in a car and drive.
He came down like he was like freaking Tom Cruise from like Mission Impossible or something. Rewrote the scene, and before he got back to his plane, I sort of grabbed him and said, in this scene, and he rewrote two other scenes that I thought had problems. And then obviously he went on to direct Age of Ultron, and it sounds like
that was the one that burned him.
Yeah, he's like very David Lynch. Age of Ultron is his Dune. To make that comparison, because he says he got worn out and beat down. What was interesting, he said he wasn't really going to make a third Avengers film, but then he goes on and comes in and fixes Justice League, and was supposed to do a Batgirl film. So, but
then he got exposed for the creep he is.
Yeah, then his wife wrote his ex-wife or whatever wrote the op-ed, and he was kind of pushed to the side, but he
fell out of fashion. So,
well, I don't know if he really has, because I mean he's producing the new Buffy show. Is that a CW show? I can't remember.
Buffy? That was a WB show.
No, they got the new one. There's a new one. There's like a remake.
Don't tell me that's going to CW, please. No.
I think there's a Buffy
CW
remake.
Doing a lot of stuff right now.
They've got a Buffy remake.
Yeah, I know about the remake, but don't tell me it's going to the C. I'm a Whedon fan in terms of its Buffy universe. I love the Buffy universe. I'm a huge Angel fan. So
we're thinking it might be HBO Max, maybe. I haven't. No, I have to look it up.
CW's doing they're remaking Kung Fu. They're doing Maverick based off the card games television show. And then they're doing
the movie that Mel Gibson was in, right?
And Mel Gibson was in, and then Walker Texas Ranger they're redoing.
Yeah.
I think the only two original shows they have are Republic of Sarah and Superman and Lois.
No, I'm thinking Freeform has that.
So they're bringing back 1997 Saturday afternoon shows.
Yeah. It's not called Walker Texas Ranger either. It's just called Walker.
It's called Walker.
Yeah. They had to get rid of Texas Ranger.
Kung Fu: The Legend continues.
I know it's done by Christina M. Kim. Let me just pull up the script here because I've got it on my server.
Because Kung Fu, you're essentially doing Iron Fist right.
Yeah, but it's on the CW, so it's not going to be done right.
It's going to be continues.
No, it's a sequel, I guess, to Kung Fu, and it stars a character by the name of Nikki Chen, who's a 26, young Constance Wu, sitting in the lotus position, deep in thought, as a lone grasshopper jumps over the rock she sits on.
Here we go.
Yeah, so that's what it is. Yeah.
Is she gonna catch her chopstick?
Jesus Christ!
Where's that meme? Where's that Joker meme? Here.
I'm with John Willis. Walker without Chuck Norris. Is it even possible? No, it's not. It's not. I know we're talking.
Oh well, Walker is written by Anna Frick, and
I think that's already out, right? I feel like
it's Cordell Walker, but it is a male character. I don't know if was it released?
I know they cast the guy. I can't remember who it is right now.
Non-binary.
I know the guys. Yeah, I know that they have the guy cast, but
yeah, I'm not sure if it's out. I thought it might be out already. I'm not sure.
No, that's part of pilot season, so it wouldn't be out until fall.
I know he's producing the new Buffy series. I don't think he's directing it. He's just producing it. And then obviously he has his others, which is going with HBO, which is Warner Brothers. So I'm not really sure. Back to Whedon, I'm talking. I'm not really sure if he was actually really exiled or not, because they picked up a show. I assume it'll probably. I mean, everything on HBO is being carried over to HBO Max, so you'll see it on HBO Max as well. It just seems like he might have maybe he was ostracized from Batgirl, because of all the Me Too things at the time, and you don't want a male doing a female character because you can't do that anymore
For some stupid reason.
Yeah.
I think it was more for the safety of the cast.
But I actually do agree with. So in the video where Campea talks about this, he says that the MCU wouldn't be where it was today without the Avengers. I agree with him.
Yeah.
I don't think the MCU is where it is today without Whedon and the Avengers, because that film was definitely it changed film, movie-going audiences. It was definitely something we had never seen before. It was. They took the comic book model and put it on the big screen.
That's Paramount's doing, and unfortunately, Disney didn't run with that. They went in their own direction. If Paramount still had it, I don't think we'd be seeing the type of woke stuff there, because Marvel Studios would still be considered on their own, because Paramount barely touched them, really. All the stuff that happened with Marvel Studios, like between Feige and the original and Perlmutter, that was their own internal crap. That was there. But now there's so much meddling from Disney high up and Marvel that we ended up getting a very paint by numbers set of movies. Because you look at those first three.
It comes from Iger. I mean, he's admitted that when he talks. I think he is extremely involved in the creative process. He's admitted that when it comes to Star Wars, he talks about that in his little memoir thing. About they had already had the plans for what they were going to do with Star Wars, and then he says his whole purpose of becoming whatever he is now, the executive director or executive chairman or whatever his title is, it's all about trying to be creative. Obviously, he's still acting as CEO given the crisis that's going on, and
he's returned to his old job.
There was reports about that. What's his name was still always reporting to him. They made that very clear in their investors meeting when they introduced Chapek and everything. When they made the announcement that Chapek would be reporting to Iger as executive chairman, but obviously when you have this stuff happening on, he's going to be giving him probably a lot more guidance than what he would have probably been if this crisis wasn't happening. But
exactly.
Yeah.
But if Paramount never sold Marvel to Disney, we'd probably have far more distinct looking and fun and far more entertaining MCU than what we have now. I think we would have Ant-Man by I'm forgetting his name right now. Edgar Wright. I think Edgar Wright's Ant-Man would probably have come more to fruition. I think we probably would have had a better Hulk film. I don't think we would have got Iron Man 3 as we did. I think it would have probably been something a lot different, and I bet we wouldn't have gotten Avengers Age of Ultron. I think that would have been saved for much later, for another story arc all entirely.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of wasted Ultron as a one and done.
They really did, yeah.
Whereas he's the only villain that's really been one and done. Loki's been a villain and then he's became an ally, and then I don't know. He's just changing sides all the time.
Yeah.
Thanos got 2 films. They're bringing back Zemo for a whole TV series where it seems like he's going to be the main villain in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm trying to think. Malekith was one and done, I guess, in Thor: The Dark World. Red Skull. I can't believe he's got to come back somehow. But I guess they kind of brought him back in Infinity War and Endgame, where it's this weird,
in the lamest way possible.
Yeah, super lame.
Marquand.
Yeah.
Yeah, we probably would have got the Mandarin proper under Paramount than what we did with Disney.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I enjoy Iron Man 3, and I'm not against what they did with the Mandarin, especially after they got the fan backlash that they did, and then they put out the
one shot.
The one shot.
Oh,
yeah.
I really liked the PTSD take on Tony Stark for Iron Man 3. It just felt a little bit out of place in the flow of some things, and I felt it was kind of weird seeing Tony Stark with a pistol, because I really liked that scene where he built all of his stuff to go into the mansion and take those guys out. That was awesome.
Yeah.
But the climax part where he's got the gun and he's doing the Lethal Weapon banter with Rhodes, that just felt weird.
Yeah, I'm not saying there isn't problems with
it. Doesn't have its problems, yeah, but I think it was definitely better than Iron Man 2.
Iron Man 3, the first time I watched it, I didn't like it. I watched it again several years later. I was like, wow, this is a lot better than I remember it. I think I went into it, with preconceptions, and that when I didn't get what I thought I was going to get, I kind of turned off to it while I was watching it. But I went back and watched it again a couple months ago, and I was like, wow, this is a lot better than I remember it, and I kind of like it more than I like this. Yeah, it's not better than the 1, but it's definitely better than 2. So.
For sure. I wouldn't be surprised if they do try and bring Whedon back into the fold at Disney. He's definitely signaling all the right things on Twitter.
It just feels like a desperate move, in my opinion. It's like they need to get some cred back, and so they think Whedon is still able to do that. But personally, I don't think that's the case. Not in my opinion.
Crazy Cat Guy for $5 super chat. Gotta run. Thanks, Bending Comics and panel for the entertaining stream. Stay healthy and good night. Thank you, Crazy Cat Guy, for joining us. We appreciate it. You too. Stay healthy and good night as well.
Yeah, good night, Crazy Cat Guy. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Alba and Dark Angel. Yes, I would say that.
Isn't that a James Cameron thing?
I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was Eliza Dushku and Dollhouse. That was something that
I like that one too.
Good concept, but he made that show because Eliza Dushku called him on, their affair.
Yeah.
So John Willis is. This is kind of where I was going. Maybe he's not talking Fantastic Four, but maybe they're looking at him to do a TV show. Willis is saying Firefly follow-up. I'm maybe thinking
that's not going to happen.
He does something Disney. I don't think Firefly follow-up is going to happen, but
not enough busting seats.
Yeah, brown coats want it, but that's never going to happen.
I'm thinking more Disney Plus. He gets a maybe he does X-Men. He does some X-Men characters.
I hope not, man. Joss Whedon is too woke now, man.
Is he?
Yeah.
At the core of who Joss Whedon is, do you think he's too woke?
I think it's more ironic than anything
else. You watch the Shield?
Well, that wasn't him. That was his brother, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was his brother. He did the one episode in season 1 to get it started, and then he was done.
Oh, hey, what was wrong with Agents? I like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't have a problem with that. I thought the last 2 seasons were really good, actually.
Yeah, but he, I guess Faith's pants is something worth Googling.
Yeah, look at the chat. They agree with me. Nano Reaper, Mark 63366. They know.
I don't know. I don't know if I think we're conflating SJW here with like his personal politics and Twitter signaling.
Does it really
no, he's a pretty huge leftist, dude.
Yeah, I know. I've seen his movie though. You guys.
Age of Ultron wasn't woke. Avengers wasn't woke. Firefly isn't really woke.
He could be a terrible human being and still know how to trade stuff.
Buffy and Angel are classics to me, especially Angel.
Yeah.
Well,
he got screwed up with Angel.
Yeah.
I know where you're coming from, Drew. I'm just trying to so he's like one of the few people I feel like that he's not beating you over the head with it in his drama, but we also haven't seen anything since this kind of what he's been preaching on Twitter and everything with his ex-wife and stuff. So we'll see. I think the Nevers on HBO is going to be a big testing ground because the description
that's going to be the big indicator.
Yeah,
the description, everything that it's about, it looks like it could be very woke, but again, it could also be really, really interesting and be an entertaining show. But yeah, I'm not. I don't want to discount what you're saying, Drew. I just think we haven't seen it yet, and I guess that's where I'm just kind of
that's fair.
hedging my bets.
Maybe he's just playing the game till he gets back in the chair.
Yeah,
let's hope for that.
Yeah, he's trying to double step over the Me Too thing because of what he did to Alicia Dushku.
Yeah, that's also. Sure. In this, I guess.
The apology tour.
That's the way to do it is just, act like you're on the team. Sure, it could be, that could be it too. We'll see.
Women.
I think the Nevers comes out. It's supposed to come out this year, so we'll see what happens there.
Supposed to.
I just want to tell these ladies to make me a sandwich.
That's
You're
how
gonna get us in
toxic
trouble.
of you.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my
Make it
God,
sandwich.
how can you stand yourself, Drew?
All right, let's close up with probably what might be our most controversial topic.
Oh, wait, huh?
You guys found my OnlyFans account?
Them bikini pics with the otter, dude. I was sold.
I didn't know you shaved there, Jorge.
Dude, man, I gotta
Jorge.
say that the Nair is amazing.
Here,
Yeah.
Jorge, you use some eye makeup there. It's white.
Is that what those rocks are for? All right, so this was brought to our attention by fellow YouTuber Mecha Random.
I feel like, by the way, I feel like this original thing was somebody recycled an old article from 2018. Where
I think what happened is that the Independent reran the article somewhere, and it went super viral. Because when I was on their website, it was like number 2 trending.
Because if I remember correctly, this was picked up on in 2018.
Yeah, it was 2018. I don't think we covered it in 2018.
Well, this was right. This was right before, if I'm not mistaken. Wasn't it before the
Infinity War
stuff?
It was right. So this was Creed 2. So this was the fall of 2018, and Captain Marvel was
April
March
2019.
March 2019, right?
March 2019, yeah.
No,
I
okay.
think it's March 8 is when that came out. So yeah, this was happening right before Infinity War and Captain Marvel, and she was promoting Creed 2. So there's tape of this. I don't think we need to play it. We can just read it.
Yeah.
So she begins saying, "I want to see work that really looks like the world in which we live. So there are lots of people of color. Look around." She added, and it's also really exciting, not just what we put on screen, but also to work inside of productions that are inclusive. And then she said, like, I don't want to show up on set and just see a bunch of white people, no offense. And I don't want to work in the company of a bunch of men, no offense.
No.
I want to show up on set and have it look like the world I walk around in every day, which is full of women and people of color and folk with disabilities.
Yeah.
I want to make content that feels like that both on camera and off it.
Yeah, what she's saying is, I want to protect my little bubble on everybody else and tell them they're wrong if they're not in that little bubble.
Well, what she's saying in her IMBD are completely different.
Yeah.
Just saying.
It's like
Yeah, who's signing those checks she's cashing, right?
MIB.
So one of the criticisms that we've been getting is our headline. People think our headline is clickbait. This is our headline. Though our actress Tessa Thompson doesn't want to work with a bunch of white people and a bunch of men. I think the headline is accurate. We're paraphrasing what she said. And then I think one of the other criticisms I've been seeing or not criticisms of us, but it's really kind of like defense of what she's saying, is that she's not wanting to she's not against white people. She just wants other people of color and people that look like her working around her. And so that's not what she's saying. She says she wants to see less white people around her. That's what she's saying.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I don't want to show up on set and see just a bunch of white people.
Well, if she really wanted it, she would have leveraged what little star power she has right now and actually, put more people in these positions on these projects she's on, right? I mean, I don't think that's rocket science. She would do her best to actually, talk the talk instead. I mean, walk the walk instead of just talk the talk. When it comes to what she's doing and her own projects, she would be looking for those people on those shapes and those shades of color. But instead, what is she doing? She says the safe thing, I don't want to do this, but when someone's coming at her with a check and script, she ain't saying no to cashing that check and memorizing that script.
Well, Critical Drinker said it best. It was like, what if the shoe was on the other foot,
Exactly.
Chris Hemsworth goes in and says, I don't want to see a bunch of people of color, and I don't want to see a bunch of women
a whole bunch of women on set, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I know in my 9 to 5, I were to say something like that, I would be shit canned real fast for good reason.
Oh,
Yeah,
dude, if I
mean,
said that, people would be campaigning to have us like blacklisted. The website would be taken down. Facebook would be shutting us down. Oh, yeah, it would be all
We've
over.
had that already.
Well, yeah, I mean, Facebook just took us down, but like there would be like massive outrage. There would be campaigns created.
They would dox
sure.
us, they would find us. You all know
Yeah.
this. But again, it's do as I say, not as I do mentality that people like that with those beliefs tend to have. Right? They want you to live by rules that they want to set for you, but they don't want to live it themselves.
Not to mention, isn't her girlfriend white?
Oh, we can't mention that, dude. That's
okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think she identifies as white though.
She doesn't.
Oh,
She doesn't-
okay.
I thought they weren't like dating or whatever.
I think she's Saltine American.
She like I don't think they're like she doesn't call her a girlfriend or something. She had some like weird word for it.
Cracker in the corner. Nobody?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a weird thing to say because the one thing that Hollywood does is, and Gary Beekler says it quite well, is they follow trends. So if there is a filmmaker out there or an editor or screenwriter or whatever that's getting a lot of popularity and they are of, say, non-white, Hollywood will jump on them and prop them up and push them because they think they can make money out of them. And that's what it is mostly, like, can we make money off of this person? But you can't work in the opposite direction. It just doesn't. You can't force a person who's maybe not artistically or skillful or ready enough to do those jobs and hope it'll pay off because it never works that way. Tessa Thompson is a prime example. People are putting her in films because I guess she's a name, and some people out there like her. But I just personally myself, I just don't see it. I mean, I'd rather see Tandy Newton than Tessa Thompson and stuff because Tandy Newton is at least refined as an actor and cares about the work she does.
Well, she's a face. I don't know about name because she is. It's not hard to look at. So
Yeah. But yeah, like she fits certain boxes that again a very very limited but loud vocal group puts out there. But even then, they don't come to defend her or demand her to be in roles of other films. Like I haven't seen any like change.org petitions to say, hey, cast Tessa Thompson as X character in the latest big franchise. And I don't even know why they selected her for Men in Black International. And heck, I don't even understand the principle of Men in Black International because Men in Black is an interstellar operation. So it's like kind of stupid.
I think they set it up as it's a U.S. Black Ops.
Like you have the U.S. branch and then a U.K. branch, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense, but it doesn't matter. It's still Men in Black. It's just.
Well, they're trying to take it outside of the United States is what they're trying to do, so they can market it to the rest of the world as it's not just a U.S.-centric agency.
They were trying to make an excuse to have it in China so they can make some more money. That's what happened.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, if they really wanted to do something that's like diverse and stuff, just make it in Southern Ontario. It's a massively diverse and multicultural community. Of course, aliens are gonna fit right in there. Like in the UK, like like London has an influx of some immigration, but it's not as diverse or eclectic as other places throughout the world.
And the funny thing is, when Men in Black tanked, there was no people out there trying to champion it, to succeed, like we've seen with other movies that aren't great. And when they don't go well, they start blaming people, and not the movie itself. There was no real fan backup for her. So you can question how much star power she has.
I don't think she has any star power. I think this is kind of what I don't think there's any. I think Robert Downey Jr. might be the last really big Hollywood person with star power now.
Dwayne Johnson's still pretty popular, I think.
And even Robert Downey Jr.'s Doolittle bombed. So can we even say he has any big star power outside of Iron Man right now?
Yeah, if his next two projects don't do well, he's going to be returning to Marvel because he has people. He has people he has to pay.
Yeah, and even Dwayne Johnson. He's huge. But he's also he's done the Tooth Fairy thing. I don't think that. He's definitely
he did that before he got super big.
Well, he just.
Are we talking about physically big or star power big? I'm getting confused.
Both.
Yeah, because Jumanji 2 did fairly well, and he
Yeah,
was
no,
in
Jumanji's
that.
huge, but Rampage I think didn't do well. So there's things where he's headlined that haven't done as well.
Oh yeah, his Die Hard thing didn't do that well either.
Yeah, that tower thing.
The one leg thing. Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah. So he's had his struggles as well outside of like Fast and Furious and like other bigger franchises. But no, if you remember, I remember this from Men in Black. She was trying to change the name of the franchise. She doesn't want it to be called Men in Black anymore.
They're trying to do that with the X-Men too.
Oh yeah. You have Marvel Marvel Studios executives are coming out and saying that the name X-Men is sexist and needs to be
outdated.
changed.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Like, you don't even know what the term men means. Like, get out of here. Like, Lord of the Rings needs to be just completely stricken. The realm, the age of man is over. Like, what?
It's the age of bipeds.
Yeah.
Poor Sarah Jessica Parker is getting ripped in the chat.
Sarah Jessica Parker? Why is she?
What does she do?
BoJack Horseman.
Pony. It sounds like you started it, Drew. Looks like you started it. But yeah, I just feel like it's kind of what's happening. We started this off with Lucasfilm, Star Wars, bringing in seemingly an ideologue to do their next Star Wars, rumored to do their next Star Wars show, and then they have ideologues already on board. Or at least if they're not ideologues like Script Doctor was saying, they're there. I don't know. I feel like, I guess I want to compare this to what John Boyega is doing, because Boyega took his Star Wars money, he started his own production company, and he's hiring people from Nigeria.
Philip, you're right.
If I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So he's actually like,
well, his father's from Nigeria. Maybe it's probably his family members and people he knows.
Right, exactly. That's what he's. He's probably definitely bringing in people that are part of his family. That's where his family is from.
Yeah.
But he's actually walking the walk and talking the talk.
He's putting his money up. Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing what he's saying. Whereas like,
but I love the fact that Boyega's like so not woke, dude. He's
he's a businessman. You can tell he's about his money. He's a realist. He's like
in that bag, bro.
No, see, this is the thing that about Frakes that I'm thinking about. Like Boyega, when he was in the movies, he was towing the line, but now that he's out, he's just like he's letting it all loose. He's pulling down his pants and showing us how big his pipe is. I mean,
he's actually even said he's like the movie wasn't good, and to all those people who are talking about me, if they came to you with a check, are you gonna say no? He said, "Hell no! You're gonna play Jar Jar. You're gonna like it."
Yeah. Boyega is. I also think he is able to like read what's happening in pop culture. He realizes that most people think those movies are absolute trash, and like because like I remember what was it earlier last year? I think it might have been earlier this year. But remember he was saying that like I think it was Price of Reason. We were talking about him again, that I think it was like That Tug Girl or something might have said it, but they were saying like what Finn's character was done dirty, and Boyega like responded was like, I didn't even realize fans thought that, and this was like coming up to The Rise of Skywalker. So I think he started like seeing like where fan reaction really was.
Well,
and how much they liked him and what his character could be. Yeah.
He's probably been insulated, and like, oh yeah, they love you. They love you over here in America. It's like, go on Twitter, sir, and get off of Twitter. Actually, get off of Twitter and go, venture off into the weeds, and you'll see what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, that's actually probably one of the things that I found consistent along between people of the Phantom Menace and those that absolutely liked the sequel trilogy is that they all had a reverence for John Boyega. I mean, the thing is he had the most interesting character that was then disserviced in Last Jedi and then completely pushed aside in Star Wars Episode 9 from Outer Space. And it's and it was just a disservice, but then he's doing what a lot of actors do when they get enough money. They start up a production company to get themselves more work. And that's what he's doing now. But there's this crew in Nigeria, and Nigeria does have a film market. I don't think it's too big, but it's definitely sizable enough to at least do some production there and make him and all those that work for him pretty comfortable for the foreseeable future. So that's a brilliant tactic for him, and others will do it. I'm pretty sure Daisy Ridley has her own production company, or at least a small, very small net group of people that seek out work for her. Oscar Isaac, I know, has one. So yeah, that's what actors do, and the fact that John Boyega is doing this and doing it in, I guess, his father's home country is awesome. I mean, that's kind of how you sort of help build up a local economies. You inject some.
I don't know if
money
he's
into
doing it in Nigeria. I think he's hiring like Nigerian, like his family, Nigerian nationals, and like people who have moved over into the UK. I think his production company is set in the UK. That's where he lives.
Oh, it's probably set in the UK, but I wonder if he'll set up an office there though, because
he might. I don't know.
Nigeria,
I delve deeply into it.
Nigeria is like the next Bollywood. There's a movie pumping out of there every 2 hours, and they're all shot very economically.
Okay.
My aunts, they will sit down and watch 8 hours of Nigerian films just because. I don't know why. I don't get it. They're not my thing. But there's no lack of product coming out of that country in terms of film.
Yeah, and if anything, if John Boyega is doing a production company there, he'll get more attention brought to it, and maybe he'll actually like hit on the market to really compete. Because right now, Bollywood, I still think, makes more money than Hollywood, just because of the amount of product they push out for such a low budget, and the fact that it's India's massive population is buying into all those movies all the time. So like, there's a lot there for it. And if Nigeria can at least get a little bit more on the market and also expand to reach to outside of their normal audience, then that's even better for him and also for that film market, because more types of storytelling out there and more types of film is always a good thing. It just compels everybody else to try harder to make sure that their stuff rises above their competition.
I also think that Boyega is like a geek nerd at heart. I mean, he's always talking about his love of Gundam. He did Pacific Rim 2, although I think that was just bad. That was just a bad script.
Another geek we didn't talk about, Rosario, but that's probably
we can get into that. Yeah, let's get into that. We didn't back to the Star Trek, right?
The Q thing.
Yeah. But yeah, I think to kind of just wrap this bow up on Boyega, I think what he's doing is he's walking the walk. And instead you have Tessa Thompson here just kind of virtue signaling,
doing the minimum effort.
For sure. All right. So in other news, let me bring this up. I'll let Don lead on that, or Jorge, whoever wants to go, or Drew about the Rosario Dawson.
Who knows Klingon in here?
Talk.
I only know the swear words.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's like with any other new language, right? That's the first thing people learn are the swear words. No,
all right, so we're gonna wrap it up on Star Trek, man. We're doing Star Trek. What are we, a Star Trek podcast now?
Now we are.
You got a lot of Trekkies. You got a lot of Trekkies.
There are a lot of Trek people in here.
I think Don and I are the only ones who don't watch it.
Yeah, but I'm a fan of Rosario.
I mean,
how can you not be after like Alexander?
Oh.
Sin City, man.
No, but let's see where we start. Wasn't she talking about the attempted fan casting for her on Star Wars, right? For Mandalorian.
She was talking about the reports about Mandalorian, yeah.
Yeah, and then she talked about, and she branched off from there, how if she had an opportunity, she would retire very happy if she can get a role in Star Trek as well, since her and her family are really big Trekkies, with her eye on Q thanks to her papa.
Yeah.
So she was talking about she would just want a minor role, but her family was like, no, you need to either be a captain, or her brother was like, you need to be a captain because he plays Star Trek Online and would want to like interact with her, I guess. Her character.
I'm playing
Star Trek Online. And then her dad was like, no, you need to be Q.
And
I
that
like
would,
the
be,
idea.
that would be good. Only
I would have no problem with that. That makes
I mean, Qs are really cool species because, you know, as we mentioned in the article, I mean, they're not a gender binary species like humans or the humanoids, and their reality or their dimension where they live can only be perceived in metaphors, right? So it gives the Trek writers as much leeway as these horrible writers need right now, so they can try to produce something decent. And she's a really good actress to boot.
oh yeah,
Enthusiastic about the project, so I think it's a really good opportunity to, you know, try to pull Trek back to something that's digestible to normal human beings that aren't wasted or high.
yeah. I think she would be all right as Q. And you know, I mean, you've had Susie Plaxton that played female Q before.
Well, I mean, she also has the range for. I mean, Clerks, Alexander, her spin on Daredevil and other Netflix series.
Sin City.
There you go. I mean, there are different iterations of the Q that she has a lot of freedom to do.
Well, I mean, at this
because
point,
everyone thinks about the OG Q, right? John
Delancey, but she wouldn't be replacing John Delancey. And if they
No.
tried to do that, you could always just say it's a lie because the Q are mischievous people, anyways.
Exactly. They were Loki before Loki was Loki, right? So, so that's the cool thing about it. I mean, again,
Just that Star Trek canon.
What?
Oh,
The Q was Loki before Loki. That's like
Well,
is that
they're
Star
more
Trek?
Q was the mischievous character, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I know. Okay. I wasn't. Okay. Never mind.
Well, a lot of them were very nihilistic with existence because they, in their view, have seen everything, experienced everything. So all they really have left was being dicks.
Yeah, weren't they like a type 4 or 5 civilization or
I think
something
type
like that?
5 on the Russian dude scale.
The Kardashev scale?
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
Don obviously is way more, is also a Trekkie too. Apparently,
I read science fiction too. So anyway, yeah, if they
I'm the only
mastered the solar system in that sense, and they can choose whatever gender they want, I see no problem with
Well, I mean,
John, the Q, if you in terms of what they are,
I
you know what Franklin Richards is, right?
Yeah.
You know what he can do, right?
Yeah.
Make him immortal and a dick.
Okay.
there you go.
yeah.
I
There you
think I
go.
kind of have an idea. I watched this. We got the clip in the article here. This one right here. Picard meets Q. And I think he explains it pretty well. This guy's like in a colonial outfit almost, or
That's
not
Marine.
colonial, but
It's a military
What?
outfit.
Military. He
Military.
typically
No,
shows
the-
up in a captain's uniform, though.
the Q character when he shows up, he's in this like 18th century like military uniform almost.
Yeah, with the red coat and the hat and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
gets his
yeah.
time frame of their century incorrect, but then catches up as he, continues to meddle with them in that episode.
Do you guys remember the episode where he brought the mariachi band on the bridge and started
When
dancing?
he got his
Yeah,
powers
that's when his
back,
powers
right?
were restored.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, they couldn't.
He
do
tried
that.
to give the women to Riker. Riker, I don't need your fantasy women. It's like take the women, Riker. You know you want to.
He makes Data laugh.
Yeah, that was best.
Oh yeah, that's a Spanish, like the Don Quixote's type.
Yeah, it's
You can see it.
Conquistador.
Okay, yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only
Yeah,
episode
yeah.
I remember is when Q gave Riker the kind of the powers of
Yeah,
Q
the
as
power
well.
cue.
Yeah, where
That
Wesley
was
Crusher
fun.
gets stabbed in
Yeah.
the chest. Yeah, that's
And
a
then-
great scene.
And then the lesson was like Picard was saying, "Are you afraid of us becoming gods one day as well?"
And you saw Q's face. I mean, that kind of said it all.
Yeah.
I think Dawson would make an amazing Q. I mean,
Yeah,
she
I
has
actually think
the
she
actor
would.
talent. It's just
She would
make sure
kill
the
it.
writers don't suck.
I would love her to be self-deprecating on the series itself and talk about things that didn't make a lot of sense and bring up even the more fan criticism of this like how things have changed. It's a little darker here, and I want her to be mischievous to the point of being scary because she has this sinister kind of smile that she does when she's acting sometimes, where it's sexy and terrifying. Like you're not quite sure what she's thinking.
Like she's gonna cut you.
Yeah.
That's because
Like,
she's
have her
And it's
transform
Puerto Rican.
synthetic.
It's good.
Yeah, have her transform synthetic Picard into like the real Picard, like restoring his soul, and Picard realizes like, oh my god, I've been dead and now I'm back in this back alive again, and it's Q who did it. but not the Q he thought.
The body was still like decomposing, and he was like,
If Q had his
really
own
bad
series, it'd be
spot.
like Legion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be.
It wouldn't make. You'd have to think about every episode when you're done and rewind it and watch it 4 times.
Do you think Dawson could write Picard better than the current show writers?
I think
Probably.
a room full of monkeys
It'll-
could write a better series.
It'll be traditional Trek. If she's been watching Trek as long as we have, then yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at the very least, if she has some sort of like producing a role or something like that, and if she can get the role, then I.
Oh, if
I think
CBS
she can
All Access
pull it.
needs the money.
Yeah. I mean, if she can pull the show to more of a Trek direction, it'd be a good thing, right? And she God, I mean,
It would even be perfect, dude, to get if they did a passing of the torch thing and had Delancey in the first little while of the show. I mean, that would be a perfect transition. I mean,
Or a battle of wits between her and Delancey.
Oh my God! Imagine a 40 or 50-minute chess match between those two, just screwing with people.
We've seen it a couple times.
Using
Two
Picard
Qs go at it.
Yeah.
just trolling
that'd be
people.
great.
Yeah,
We're literally writing the show for these people. They need.
exactly.
I have a question. It's kind of it's super nerdy. Which race is more powerful, the Prophets or the Q?
I
I think the
think
Q.
The
Q.
Q by far.
Prophets are limited to the Bajoran
Yeah.
wormhole, right?
Yeah,
No,
They
their time
don't
is
see
space.
time linearly. They
Yeah,
see it all
yeah.
at once, but they also can't manipulate anything.
But the Q
unless
can.
you're within the
well, they
wormhole,
can.
right?
The prophets can do
I
certain
thought they
things.
could like snap their fingers and they did stuff.
Yeah, they're definitely not anywhere near as powerful as the Q.
I mean, as Don was mentioning the scale, I think the Prophets are pretty up there, but they're not a Type 5, right? Those guys can make universes, destroy them, create them, harness their energies. The Q can do that. They've proven that over and over again.
At the same
Prophets aren't
time, the
there.
Prophets, we don't know what they can do because they don't seem interested in our plane of existence.
They did. Don't forget, Bill. They did disappear an entire Dominion fleet.
That was coming through the wormhole, though, so we don't know if
Yeah,
they can
their
affect
territory.
outside of the wormhole. So,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
because I was going off of what you guys just said, it's like you made a good point. Most of the stuff they've done has been inside that wormhole. So
Right. This
they
is-
just talk to people outside of it.
yeah, this is true. All right.
I love Trek. I love you guys too. I don't get to talk about this on the outside. I live in a world of the mundane. Everyone around me is pretty normal.
Well, no, that's why I love these panels, man. We have awesome discussions, and that's why I think the readers love these panels too, because we're covering what we cover on the site, but we're coming from all kind of different angles, which is good.
Oh yeah, I'll cover Rosario Dawson any day.
Oh well, yeah. I don't think you'll find anybody here that disagrees. I mean, she's
All right. Well, with that being said, I think we're going to wrap it up here. It's 1:15 almost. I feel like.
yeah,
Um,
it's late. I did want to really quickly get into Susie Liu, but we could do that another time. We'll get into that next week.
Yeah, we can talk about that next week. All right, so we'll go around the horn. We'll start with you, Drew.
All right. I am Supreme Heretic. You can catch me on youtube.com/Supreme Heretic. And tomorrow we have the Pegasus Actual podcast. And if you guys have been watching the Battlestar Marathon on
Hell
Sunday,
yeah.
you guys could come in and talk some Battlestar with us. Don's made it to most of the shows. He's having a good time because we got people in the chat going wild with theories about how Boxy died and where's Boxy at. And, last week we had Simone Bailey on, which was awesome. Actress that was on Stargate SG-1, and she had a bit role in the finale of BSG. So hopefully down the road we'll be getting some more acting guests too, and that's going to be fun. But yeah, the roundtable we do is a real blast because you get stuff watching our stream that you wouldn't get like if you were watching the DVD set or something. So it's a lot different. It's a good time. So catch that on my channel tomorrow, and of course you can read me on Bounding because I love writing for Bounding.
All right, Phil.
I'm always here.
America's ass.
America's ass, yes. You can always find me on Bounding. Again, I put out 2 to 4 articles per week. I'm working on my 2nd and 3rd. Hopefully, it'll be out tomorrow. You find me on Twitter. I like saying random things. I like X-Men, Star Trek, and long walks on the beach. So,
yeah, you gotta.
I'm also married, so don't hit me up. So,
you got a X-Men History of Magic story went up today.
that was fun. Yeah.
That was a good article, Phil. I read that.
Thank you. I enjoyed writing it. It's just, it's funny. As you write, you realize how much is actually going on and how much information you have stored up and what's going on around you. So I always love doing these kind of.
I was
articles.
getting a little Inception vibe when I was reading about magic using magic.
Yeah.
and we need something to tide us over until New Mutants comes out.
Yeah.
But yeah, 5 or 6 years from now.
Whenever that is.
I want that movie so bad.
I just want to watch the movie, man.
I can't believe they haven't announced. They haven't put that on Hulu or Disney Plus.
No announcement.
Yeah, it's in limbo now.
Just put it out there.
Yeah. It's magic.
Well, we all know it's not that simple. There are contracts that have to be appeased and all that. So we don't know what exactly is in the works and what they have to do for it to be released in that manner. So
yeah,
magic's guarding the movie in limbo.
All right, Don, you're up.
All right. You can follow me on Twitter, Dolphied. The little I in the middle is actually another L, so that'll help you out a little bit. I've got my own YouTube channel. We go into rumors and speculation going on in the Hollywood and entertainment industry every Friday-ish. And then I'm trying to do some videos every day for Bounding Into Comics, little short descriptors of some characters you might know in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So
or that might be appearing.
So yeah, a lot of things to check out from me. Just keep an eye out.
Yeah, Don just did a Lady Thor video.
No, it's an awesome video.
Got that up, and then yesterday you did Gore the God Butcher. Right?
Yeah.
I think it was yesterday. Might have been Monday. Was it?
Yeah,
it was
I've got Beta Ray Bill coming up, and then at some point,
Yes.
Throg.
So we got a bunch of Thor. You can sense that there's a Thor theme going on.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot of Jason Aaron recently. All right, so.
All right, yeah, definitely subscribe to Dolphied for sure. His stuff is great. He covered all of our new Warriors videos. Fantastic as well.
Internet gas.
Internet gas.
They pushed that comic back again, didn't they?
Yeah.
Oh, that comic's not coming out until Diamond fixes that stuff. I don't think. We didn't even talk about that stuff.
Maybe I'll disappear. Hopefully.
Well,
That's
before
another
next
day.
week's show, it'll be pushed back another week.
Oh yeah. All right, Script Doctor, you're up.
Yeah, I am the Script Doctor. You can find me on Twitter at ScriptDoctorPhD, and I also have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/ScriptDoctor. You can also find me tomorrow night with Drew Taylor over on his channel for the Pegasus Actual Podcast. Please check us out. We're into season 2. My content on my channel is going to be a little lax for the next couple of weeks because I have a deadline for a cartoon pilot I'm writing right now. So I'm really hoping that I can get that done, and the people I pitched it to will buy it.
Jetson?
What's that? Jetsons?
Jetsons.
No,
we were talking about Flintstones last week. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, Flintstones. Yeah, that crazy.
I think that was on time. Was that on Midnight's Edge? We were talking Flintstones. Where's that here?
Yeah, that was the Pebbles show on whatever Australian Boomerang channel. Mine is not like that. Mine actually makes fun of stuff like that, but not really. So yeah, I'm gonna be working on that for the next 3.5 weeks. So, but until then, I might have some videos coming up after that. But until then, I'm going to be taking all my respites, streaming with you guys here at Bounding and anyone else on whatever channel wants me for the time being.
Please subscribe to Script Doctor. He is the whitest man on the internet. Make sure that you support his content and everything. And, because if you watch his stuff, his breakdowns of TV are brilliant.
I'm actually might send my wife over to you guys tomorrow because she was actually asking me questions about BSG, and I was letting her know this is the 5th season. What you're asking me is going to take an hour to explain, honey.
Yeah, well, we got 14 episodes, I think, covered already on Drew's channel.
I have, for those of you that are interested in watching the Pegasus Actual podcast, we have a breakdown that started all the way from season 1, episode 1 of BSG, which is 33, and we've gone right on through season 1. We are now in the 2nd episode of season 2, which will be tomorrow, and that is Valley of Darkness. So if you've been watching the marathon and you're caught up to where we're at, by all means, come in and chat it up, and we'll work directly off you with the panel and take your questions. But I have a whole playlist on my channel, so you guys can just go to my channel and pull it right up. We've got all 14 episodes of the Pegasus Actual podcast.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. We do this every Wednesdays at around 9 p.m. Eastern time. We constantly update the website, bountyonthecomics.com. As Don mentioned, we're also trying to get videos up every weekday. Don's really doing some yeoman's work on that. I have not done anything this week. I'm in the middle of a move, so my time has been taken up doing that. So hopefully I'll be able to get back on that in the next week or so, and I'll be back to creating some videos as well. So look forward to that. But yeah, again, if you haven't subscribed to Bounty on the Comics on Google News, I suggest you do. You just go to the Google News app, search Bounty on the Comics, hit the little star in the right-hand corner that shows up. And that helps us show up I'm hoping that it will help us show up on more people's Google feeds. All right. Well, thank you all, and I hope you have a good night, and we will see you next week on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Have a good night, everybody.
Peace.